Welcome back, everybody. This is Lift Talk episode number 71. We have a very special one for you guys today. It is the 2026 Australian Powerlifting Alliance National Championships preview show. That's a mouthful. And I'm joined by someone different to usual. Usually Matty B joins me for these recap shows, but he is fist deep in baby stuff and busy and started a new job and can't make the time to join us today. So I've got John Paul Cowkey joining me, returning from the SBD Cup preview and recap shows. JP, how you going?
Good. Also very excited to be here, of course, and talk about Nats. I'm very excited about these nationals, probably the most excited I've been for a powerlifting comp in ages. So it is an honor to spend a bit of time with you, reviewing and, having a look at all the lifters. So it's going to be a really good one, and I'm excited for it.
Explain that excitement and kind of how you're feeling going into this one compared to, you've probably been to or competed in 10 plus nationals at this point. Talk me through the excitement for this one.
Yeah, personally very excited. Many of you might know, but a lot of you might not either, that I've been lifting for a long time, 12 years or so. But actually, Alex, my last nationals, do you know when my last nationals was? Do you happen to know?
Would have been 2019 Hawthorn?
Good guess, 2020, the fake nationals with PA.
Oh, that one doesn't count.
That one doesn't count. So really it was 2019 in a way. And so, yeah, the last time I was at an open public nationals was 2019. So for me, 6 years between nationals, and that's not to say that I wasn't training between them. Obviously there was a lot of political drama in the meantime. I went away for a year. I did a whole bunch of different stuff. And so, I've never lost touch with powerlifting. I think I've competed every calendar year since then. But to be back with APA, doing a high level comp at nationals, I'm honestly, personally, we'll get to it when we get to the 74 kilo class, but I'm just happy to be there. So, the professionalism that I've seen APA run comps with before, personally, again, I didn't make it last year because I didn't qualify. I got injured in the qualifying comp that I was supposed to do, and that was really disappointing, and I was really sad about it. And so it took me like 6 months to recover, and then I had to train up to get to a qualifying comp, and I was super nervous at that qualifying comp. But anyway, just excited to be here, excited to be going to nationals, and even spending the last hour or two revising the lifter lists and looking over some of the history and the open powerlifting results of everyone has kind of made me even more excited again, as seeing some absolute veterans in the game, 20, 30 comps to some people's names. It's really exciting.
Yeah. And you mentioned, this is the APA's only third national championships. First one was in Newcastle. Last year was a step up again in Perth. More lifters, higher quality. And I'm thinking that this year is going to be an even higher quality again. So just to give the particulars on the dates. So it starts on the Friday, the 13th of Feb. So next Friday, I think this episode will come out on Friday or Saturday. And it runs until Sunday. It's at the RCEA Park, which is the St Kilda Football Club's training ground. Is that right?
Yeah, in Moorabbin, Melbourne, obviously.
Yep. So yeah, if you are from Melbourne or you're close by and you want to check out some really cool lifting, go and do so. We are going to run through each of the weight classes. Should we start with all the women, then all the men?
All the women, then all the men. Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. So if you want to skip ahead to a certain weight class, maybe you'll leave some timestamps in the description, Alex, I presume?
Yeah, we'll do timestamps, so you'll be able to skip to your class or the one that you're interested in. But I would suggest you listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so. There will be in-jokes as we go, so you won't get things as we,
Yeah, that's right.
So you want to make sure that you're paying attention the whole time.
That's right. We'll be calling back to previous things just to make sure you guys are listening.
Exactly.
So yeah, because this is national championships, it's not like a local comp where we just kind of want to talk about every lifter and talk about their PBs and what they're trying to achieve. We are really focused on what national championships means. So national championships is the only day of the year where you can be the national champion. So that is kind of what we're focusing on is, who's able to win, who's able to medal, who's able to break records, and those kind of things. So there will be some lifters who aren't spoken about hugely in depth because we're kind of trying to focus on the top and, recognizing that this is a stepping stone to international competition for this calendar year. If you do wish to compete for Australia as an open lifter, you have to be doing this competition and you have to hit the requisite qualifying totals or rank high enough in the Carpino lists to qualify. So yeah, there's a lot riding on it. It's also one of the very few chances to break national records. So we'll be going into depth talking about who's got a chance to do those kind of things as well. Anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Alex. No, I was just going to say, as you said, the ultimate prize at the nationals is, of course, the title of being Australian champion. But the big prize the big carrot at the end of the stick is qualifying yourself to go to a world championships or go to a international competition. And I made a post on Instagram not long ago, actually, reminiscing on my time of going to worlds. I went to 4 worlds, and I look back at that, 10 years ago, and it was genuinely life changing. Like, it genuinely redirected my life. And I think the insane thing going to nationals is there are going to be lifters here who, on one lift, end up third instead of first, or end up first instead of third or second. And that one lift could alter the direction of their life. I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but maybe they make the lift, they get to worlds, they go to worlds. It's this extraordinary experience. It's this hugely, emotive time, and it can be such a positive experience. Or 5 months prior or 4 months prior, they drop that last deadlift, or they beat the press call, and then all of a sudden they don't get to go, and their whole life is just going in a different direction now. So yeah, a lot rides on a national championships. It's big stakes, and that's what we want to see in powerlifting and in sports.
Jeez, JP, way to put the pressure on everyone.
I know there's no pressure on me though, because I'm not going to win. So that's good.
No, we're going to pull for glory, JP.
Yeah, pull for this nation.
All right, so we'll start off with the 47 kilo class. Now this one's really cool because the last 2 years we have had Vicky lifting on her own, unopposed, and realistically she's still unopposed given how far ahead she is of everyone else. But there's actually 6 lifters competing in the 47 kilo class. So really glad to see, these sort of fringe classes fill up with more talent and grow. So as mentioned, we have Vicky, we have Ainsley Jones, we have Francesca Oprinario, I think is how you pronounce it. She trains at City Strength. We got Jessica Lee, we've got Pravina TM, who I'm not going to try and pronounce that last name, and Leah Ibrahim. So those are our 6 lifters in the 47 kilo class. Obviously, this conversation kind of starts and stops with Vicky K. Last year's Australian champion, year before was Australian champion. I think probably won 1 or 2 in the APU days as well. I'm not quite sure about that, but also was the first lifter in 8 years to win a medal at Open Worlds for Australia. She won the bronze at last year's Open Worlds. She totaled 412.5 at 47, which is the Australian record total, obviously. And she's looking strong. She's looking ready to defend her title, go back to Worlds, do the whole thing. And she's such a pleasure to watch because she's so precise and so good at executing. Obviously, last 3 meets made 26 out of 27 lifts. And, since she had that sort of disaster comp at Worlds in 2024 has kind of really made her stronger, and she's come back better for it. So yeah, not much more to say about Vicky. Have you got anything to add?
No, not a lot. As you said, Vicky very decorated, and I think a clear outright favorite unless the disaster strikes. She's got the first place wrapped up, and I think it's a similar story for second place with Ainsley Jones.
Yeah, so Ainsley competed for the first time as a 47 at SPD Cup in October, totaling 373, which is 40 plus kilos above third place nomination. So like you said, should have second locked up provided no disasters. And she has also bombed quite recently too, and also on bench press like Vicky, not for elbow depth, but for butt lift at last year's nationals when she was competing in the 52 class. But was able to get a total on board, get a very good total on board, and also break the 47 squat record at SPD Cup as well. So she comes into the comp nominated second by quite a big gap. And I think this is where the interesting part of the conversation actually comes into play, which is the race for the bronze medal. So we've got 3 lifters within 17.5 kilos of each other. Frankie and Jess, 2.5 kilos apart, and Pravina a little bit behind them. But worth mentioning with Pravina, she was previously competing as a 43 as a junior. She's come up to the 47 kilo class. Very, very good squatter. and could make enough progress to challenge those other two for the bronze medal. Sorry, knocked my microphone. Frankie trains out of City Strength. I've been watching her training pretty closely because I'll be handling her on the day. And she's looking really good, looking to improve her total. She's actually looking to hit the regional QT for international, so she can represent Australia. I think the total is 342.5 or 347.5 off the top of my head. So, a bit of improvement needed to get to there. And then, Jess and Pravina will be hot on her heels for that bronze medal.
Yeah, as you said, it's going to be like a 3-horse race, I suppose, for that bronze medal place. The interesting one, as you said, is Pravina coming up a weight class and coming out of juniors. I think, when you're at that age, you're improving. If you can put on a little bit of weight, even a kilo or two at those body weights is a lot. So although she's 17 and a half below the others, there's a lot of improvement potentially there. So yeah, as you said, it's good to see that these lighter weight classes, these fringe classes have a bit of depth, and there'll be a bit of competition. Like the first place and second place, as we said, might be a little bit of a walkover, but at least there'll be a battle in the 47s, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, also worth noting, of these three lifters fighting now for bronze, Jess does have the biggest deadlift. So she will be the one at the end, I guess, who has the decision to make of whether she goes for third or not, and will have the opportunity to pull herself to the podium if she can.
The other interesting conversation here is who's going to walk away with a squat record. The squat record currently belongs to Ainsley at 145.5, but Vicky Kay, previous owner of that record, at 145.
Yeah, so I know Vicky's done, I believe, 150 in her Worlds prep. And I think they played it quite safe at Worlds. They only took a 2.5 jump from 142.5 to 145 from second to third at Worlds. And I don't know if, those people listening, Vicky's a very, very slow lifter. Everything she does is like super, super smooth and slow. So when it looks like something is an all-out max, she's usually actually got a little bit more. So it will be interesting to see whether Vicky cares about the squat record or whether she's just trying to put up a total to make sure, she does enough. I feel like Ainsley would be the one who would be sort of prioritizing that squat record a little bit more than Vicky. So I feel like Ainsley will probably be the one to try and chip it, and Vicky will kind of just sit back and let the bench and deadlift do the talking.
Yeah, very, very much could be the case. And one thing I wanted to actually mention when you were talking about Ainsley is you mentioned that she's did that 373 total at SPD Cup. She bombed, but also in between there, she didn't make weight at a comp. And I think that's important to recognize because she's got a long history in the 52 kilo class, and she's technically only got one comp in at the 47 kilo class and a missed weight in the middle there, which doesn't come up on open powerlifting. So you kind of have to know that. And missing weight, doesn't get registered anywhere officially, but it goes to show that, a lifter is pushing to make that weight, is pushing down, and, sometimes weight cuts go wrong, as I am very familiar with.
Yeah. And it was only a week before or 2 weeks before SPD Cup that she missed weight at a local meet. Then she got the call up last minute to do SPD Cup, and she actually messaged me like 15 minutes before weigh-in, and she's like asking me what her lot number was so she could turn up on time and then check that she made weight and everything. She just snuck in and made it. So yeah, I guess there's the added element there of like, maybe Ainsley misses weight. I surely hope not. And perhaps she's learned from her mistake that first time she didn't make it, and now she's got a better sort of plan or protocol to make it this time. So yeah, worth mentioning that at any point, I guess, in any of these conversations that we talk about, someone who we talk about, hey, this person could win, they could actually just not end up competing. Like they could just miss weight in any of these classes.
Not only miss weight, but also the weight cut could just go horribly wrong. I think it was 2017 Nationals. My weight cut went horribly wrong. Long story short, you got an hour and a half window for weigh-in. I weighed in at the very last second, the last minute. I missed weight again by 50 grams. And the referee said, you have 1 minute. You've got to get on the scales right now. And I'm spitting into a bin. And so I just made weight, but my squat open had to drop 20 kilos because I had half an hour to warm up and rehydrate. So things can go wrong, especially these lighter weight classes. So I'm just saying, there's always a chance. You've got to be in it to win it. There's always a chance. All right. Shall we talk about the 52s?
Yeah, let's move on to the 52s. So we have 5 lifters in the 52s. We've had a few of them, move up, move down. There's quite a few less than what we usually have in the 52s. So we've got Liz Craven, we've got Kate Nax, We've got Annabelle De Cruz, Amanda Lay, and Jenny Chan. And now, quite similar to the 47s, is we've got the top three separated by decent margins in between them. But I think when we look at the gap between Liz and Kate, I feel like that's actually not quite reflective of the gap in their strength. I think it's actually more reflective of the gap in the execution. So Liz Craven, 15 years in powerlifting. She's now, 11-time national champion, competed at multiple worlds, multiple internationals. She's had the open total record at one point. She's now got like a lot of M2 world records, and she knows how to execute. She knows how to make lifts. And if you look through open powerlifting, very rarely will she go 7 for 9 or less. It's usually 8 or 9 made lifts. And I think when you look at Kate's, she has quite often meets where she goes 6 for 9 or 7 for 9, and she's leaving kilos on the table. So the total that's there for her nominated is 398.5, which is 19 and a half kilos below Liz. But I don't think that 398.5 is actually a reflection of how strong Kate is. So I feel like that gap is actually a lot smaller, and I feel like this will actually be a really interesting battle, although, the nominations don't really show that.
Yeah, and there's other factors that you need to take into consideration when you're looking at the nominations. Like, for example, Liz, as you've mentioned, arguably, and I would say, in my opinion, the most decorated raw powerlifter Australia has produced. Meanwhile, Kate Nax is still improving, still relatively young in the game. And so that 20 kilo gap can close very quickly when you have a good day and you've genuinely improved. So it will be a really good battle. Of course, Alex, you are coaching Liz. And so your perspective?
Her training has been good. Her training has been very consistent. I will say she's had a lot of stuff on over Christmas and even into the last couple of weeks where, she's had to prioritize social stuff and, switch her training days around and change a few things to make it work. But given all of that, she's looking very, very strong. I think she's definitely a chance at breaking her own squat and total records and perhaps having a crack at the deadlift record as well. But obviously the priority will be to win. So if we have to pull back on any of those to ensure that we collect kilos, we'll do that. I think her most recent comp in New Zealand, she totaled 412. She missed a bench and she missed a deadlift, which is quite rare for Liz. And I think her form going into that comp, she was looking like she was going to do 420 plus. And we're kind of hoping that we can pick that up this time. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I trust Liz to make lifts and execute. So I back her in.
Will be a great battle. And it's worth mentioning third place looks like it might end up in the hands of Annabelle De Cruz. Also a bit of a veteran, has been around lifting for a long time. I know her relatively well because she's from Melbourne. She's come to my comps a number of times, and her nominated total is in that 377.5. So about 20 kilos below where we have Ikaterina or Kate Nax, her nomination. And she's also about 25 kilos clear of fourth nomination also.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about Amanda, but what I can kind of see is that it might be quite close at subtotal, and then Liz just has that advantage in the deadlift. So we'll see how it all shakes up. But yeah, looking forward to watching the 52s.
Shall we move to the 57s? Or before we do, so the 47s and the 52s, they're in the morning session on a Friday, correct? And they're in the same session, combined. And then so we can talk about the 57 kilo women who are in the afternoon, also in the morning.
Afternoon of Friday.
Yes, that's right, in the middle session.
Yep. I think there's only 2 sessions on Friday, is that right? And then 3 on Saturday?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so this is the afternoon session on Friday. 57 kilos in the afternoon on Friday.
Yeah, starting 1:30 p.m.
Oh, the other thing we didn't mention with the 52s was that there will be a battle for the squat record as well, similar to the conversation we had with Vicky and Ainsley. Liz has the current record, 149.5, which she did in New Zealand. Before that, it was 149, which she did last year at Nationals. And before that, it was Kate's attempt immediately before Liz's attempt at last year's Nationals, 148.5. Cool. So I fully expect them both to be within range of having a crack at it. We'll see how the lot numbers shake up. We'll see how all that goes. But definitely an extra little storyline there. All right, moving on. 57 kilo class. So this is the Friday afternoon session. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 lifters in the 57 kilo class, which is cool. Almost a full flight. I'm going to list them all now in order of nomination. So Samantha Kratz, Sophie Dobson, Daisy Brooks, Jessica Chai, Justine Buvalo, Alicia Cantello, Kyna Grace Joven, Natalie Jenner, Sarah DeBlasi, and Claudia O'Shea. I'll let you take this one. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
There's 10 lifters, and the most interesting thing I'm seeing immediately when I scan across this list is that everybody's in contention to be on the podium. Most of the weight classes, when Alex and I went about preparing for this preview show, there's always going to be some lifters who are just not in the race. They're just not quite there to get on the podium. But it is freaking red hot in this 57 kilo class. So I want to first start off by talking about the first place position and who the favorites are. And it's clearly going to be between Samantha Kratz and Sophie Dobson. Sophie Dobson is a well-known name, won nationals last year. She's moved across different weight classes. She competed at SPD Cup recently. Her nominated total is in at 420. And Samantha Kratz, also very experienced. Her nominated total is 425. So 5 kilos separates our top two nominations.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is Samantha's been in the 57s her whole career and hasn't moved. She's looking super lean and really strong. Her training's looking fantastic. She did 425 at her last two comps, and I believe had a missed deadlift in both. So there's room to pick up some kilos there. Also worth mentioning I was going to say the total record, but Abby took it to the moon, so ignore that. Yeah, and then Sophie, on the other hand, was competing in the 63. She did nationals last year at 63. She cut down to 57 for team champs. That's when she did her 420. Cut down to 52s for SPD Cup and did 397.5 with a couple of missed lifts in there, which kind of like deflated the total. This is going to be a really close battle. I think they're actually quite similar in terms of their top end strength, except Sammy has quite a big advantage in the squat, where Sophie can make that up in the bench and the deadlift. So I'm looking forward to seeing kind of what that gap looks like in the squat first and foremost. If Sammy can have a 15 to 20 kilo lead after the squat, it's going to be quite hard for Sophie to make up those kilos. But if Sophie can kind of get it to within 10 or 12 and a half kilos, then I think we can really see, a very, very tight finish and potentially an attempt for the win. Also worth noting, Daisy Brooks nominated in third with 387.5. She actually totaled 405. Now, I'm just going to double check this.
That's at 57. So that was weighing in at 56.3 at the Grand Prix.
Yeah, so that total isn't actually listed for the... Yeah, so she's actually in at 405, not 387.5. So she has been making tons of progress recently.
But this will be her first competition at 52. Yeah.
This is 57s.
So 57. Sorry, my mistake. Ugh.
So Daisy's actually done quite a few comps at 57. She won Junior Nationals 2024, went to Worlds that year, and then had like a bit of a back injury and kind of took a few steps back. But she's now right back at her best and better than ever now. So totaling 405 at her most recent comp. Can you check the weigh-in for that, the body weight?
56.3.
Okay, so she did make weight for that most recent comp. I was under the impression that she did that at 63, but that's even better sign for Daisy. If one of these two girls slips up, Daisy could genuinely have a crack at second here. Worth noting, Daisy is the weaker deadlifter of the top three, so she'll be deadlifting first. So there's a chance they put her into second place on that third deadlift and hope that the other two shoot for the stars and miss, and she falls with the silver. So when I wrote all of these next group of lifters who were kind of a crack at the podium, after looking a bit closer into Daisy doing 405, I actually don't know if the rest of them are a shot at the podium. What do you think?
Yeah, I think a little error on our end. But yeah, Daisy's probably a little bit further ahead than we thought. And I mean, just really quickly on this podium that we're talking about here between Samantha, Kratz, Dobson, and Brooks, we're saying that it's mainly between Samantha and Sophie for the gold medal. But then you kind of quickly mentioned that if one of them slips up, then Daisy could swoop in for second. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that, where you've got two lifters who are so focused on each other, and one of them's chasing and one of them's stretching, and one of them goes 1 out of 3 on deadlifts, and all of a sudden someone swoops in and takes that silver medal from you. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens, like Sophie misses a squat and then stretches on her deadlift, ends up on 1 or 2 out of 3, and then on Daisy's last deadlift, she ends up taking that placing. So anything can kind of happen at the top end. And you're right, it's a bit of a shame almost, because these next 7 girls are all within 15 kilos of each other, but it looks like those top 3 are just a little bit out of reach.
And I think there's actually quite a lot of potential for this sort of next group. Seven women separated by only 15 kilos, which is super cool. There's going to be a chance for a few of them to jump up and get pretty close to 400, if not at 400, which means if Daisy, Sophie, or Sammy have a not good day, or one of them does miss weight, maybe one of them does have a crack at the podium. So we're not going to say it's not going to happen. It does appear that those top 3 are a little bit ahead of the rest of the pack. But, I know Jess Chai, for instance, she's only done one competition. Like, she did 387.5. That's her first competition. Previously did a novice and did like quite a bit less than that. I know like Claudia's obviously come up from the 52s. Kina's come up from the 52s. Justine has only competed 3 times and has only been competing for 15 months. So we could see some progress there. There's just a lot of opportunity in this next group for someone to spoil the party.
And we love to see it. We love seeing parties being spoiled.
We do. As far as records go, Abby Wallace has spoiled the party for everyone, and none of these records are likely to be touched. I mean, Sammy has had a crack at a 190 or 192.5 deadlift in the past, which she didn't get, but that shows me that she's at least within range of that 193 record. Sophie as well had a crack at 185.5 SPD Cup, very, very close misses. Obviously a weight class down, so there's a chance that Soph can have a crack at that deadlift record as well, but I don't think we'll see the squat or the bench press get touched, and definitely not the total. Yeah, that total's insane. All right, moving on. Good luck to the 57 kilo girls. Moving on, 63 kilo class. We have got 8 lifters. We've got Kathleen Beggs, Rachel Chin, Angelica Fajardo, Basira Khan, Lillian Go, Shireen Halig, Samantha Huang, and Anna McRae. So when I look at this group, I kind of see a pretty clear first place in Beggsy, Kathleen. And then I see a bit of a drop-off to a really, really tight battle between Rachel and Angelica. And then another little drop-off to Basira, who's within range of third, but maybe only just within range. So we'll start off with Kathleen, who's super, super consistent. Last 3 meets, 460, 460, and 445. So you would expect she'll be within that range or a little bit above. As I said, super consistent, always makes lifts, always makes good choices, and is just a really fierce competitor, comes out, executes, and I've got very high faith in her ability to be able to be the national champion at the end of this one, with a chance at that deadlift record. So current deadlift record is 210, Kathleen's best 207.5. Worth noting there are the next 2 women, Rachel and Angelica, who are also within striking distance of that 210 as well. So that'll be a fun little battle at the end. And this next battle between Rachel and Angelica, only separated by 2.5 kilos on nominations. Rachel with 440, Angelica 437.5. Both lifters have made significant progress from their last competition to this one. So Angelica 397.5, then 422.5, then 437.5. So adding, substantial kilos to her total each competition. And Rachel 415 again, And then 440, again, making substantial progress and adding a good amount of kilos to those totals. So it'll be really, we say this all the time, up to who can actually execute and make lifts, who picks the right numbers, who comes out and, follows their technique and trusts themselves and is able to actually execute at the highest level in those moments. Also worth noting, only separated by 2.5 kilos on deadlift, these two. So separated by 2.5 on total, separated by 2.5 on deadlift, which means their subtotals are the same, which makes for just really, really exciting competition where sort of each lift is jostling. We go back and forth. I'm in the lead, you're in the lead. I'm in the lead, you're in the lead. And I guess whoever slips up first is going to be the one who will pay.
I will say it is very hard to coach those sessions when you've got two lifters that have got the same subtotal and very similar deadlifts. It's a lot easier when you've got lifters where your lifter is like 30 kilos weaker on subtotal, but 30 kilos better on deadlift, because you're always following. Whereas with the jostling, you're also changing lifting order. So in one round you're before them, the next round you're after them, and it can be very it happens so quickly. You don't have a lot of time to decide once a lift hits the ground, like that last deadlift hits the ground. Do you go up? Do you go down? What's happened? Like it can be very panicky. So I'm going to say that a little bit of the result is going to depend on the experience of the coaches. The coaches have to know what's going on, have to be able to read the scoreboard quickly, make quick decisions, and be very precise, because those things happen very quickly.
Yeah, and then there's also the choice of, because their deadlifts are essentially the same, it's like, are we just going to go first here and put one on the board and make them beat us? And then also it comes down to, what are the body weights? What are the lot numbers? If you've got the later lot number, you just can do the same attempt. And, all of those little decisions that you only really know what the choice is once you have all the information in front of you, and you have to be very proactive on your feet and ready to sort of make those choices. I will also say, only, 8 lifters in the group, very short turnaround from attempt to the next one. You do your deadlift, they do their deadlift, and then it's only 5 minutes until you have to make that change and have to decide what you're doing for the next one. So it's all going to happen really quickly. Really should be a really, really fun session to watch. And then sort of on the outside looking in, Basira, who will have the subtotal advantage on both Rachel and Angelica. And if, similar to the Daisy situation we spoke about earlier, if one of those women take a big jump from second to third deadlift, we could see Basira kind of slide herself into third and just hold herself there if there's a couple of misses.
Yeah, exactly right. I think Basira is just a little bit, Basira Khan's a little bit out of the race, but anything can happen, and you just got to put yourself in the position. So it'll be a little bit easier for her because, like you said, she's got the weaker deadlift by quite a margin. So just do your deadlifts, and it's up to them. It's up to others to make their lifts.
Yeah, it's almost an advantage in that situation to just go first and just like, hey, this is all I can do. If you can beat me, you can beat me. If not, I beat you. Like, it's kind of simple.
I'll take that medal and go home. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah, there's less pressure on you because you're just like, all right, I'm just going to do what I think I can do. It's almost like choosing a local meet. It's like, okay, what's the ceiling here? Cool, ceiling is this number. Let's do it, execute, get it. And then if they can beat you, you shake their hand.
Yeah. The record's a little bit out of reach. Similarly, Wallace has kind of ruined the fun for everybody, and Shay's got the deadlift record. So I don't think anybody's really in the mix for any of the records except maybe the deadlift record. I mean, I know Kathleen Beggs, the current record is 210 kilos, by the way, and this is the 63 kilo women's. Kathleen, at her last comp, she attempted 210 flat and missed it. And her best is 207.5. So I can't see a world where, assuming she's got the win wrapped up, that she doesn't attempt 10.5, for example. But other than that, I think the records are pretty safe.
Yeah, I do think that with Rachel and Angelica, with the recent progress that they've made, like, you definitely can't write off the chance for them to take the record either. I know Rachel's last comp was at City Strength 202.5, and it was actually pretty cruisy. Like, it was a really nice deadlift attempt. Angelica's 200 was at Power Powers. Again, really nice deadlift attempt. Probably not quite as easy as Rachel's, but more time in between Power Powers and now to the City Strength Open and now. So potential for more progress to be made. Two lifters who are reasonably early in their careers. It wouldn't be crazy to see a 10 kilo improvement in a deadlift, especially for lifters like this who are actually built really well deadlift. They're both sumo pullers, both really, really well built for it. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how that all shakes up. We could see a record attempt that takes a silver.
That would be epic.
Which
I
would
think
be
that'd be a
sick.
record lift that changes placings.
Alrighty, moving on. The 69 kilo class. We have got 3, 5, 7 lifters in the 69. So pretty short group, pretty small group. We have Hannah Altman, Leanne Derrick, Caitlin Attia, Alexandra Bonner, Lagi Fruin, Rakai Byrne, and Jessica Lamb. Now, the top 5 are only separated by 17.5 kilos on nominations, with the top 3 only separated by 5 kilos. So we have Hannah nominated at 475. Now, that is her 69 kilo total. She has previously done 480 and 502 as a 76. But she was like 74 kilos, so it's a decent cut from there to get down to 69. Leanne has always been a 69 and has sort of been 475, 472, 457 her last 3 comps, so around that same sort of level, consistently around that same sort of level last 3 comps. And Kate Attia, 470 most recent comp at 69. 462.5 was as a 76 lifter, only a couple of weeks before the 470. And the comp before that, she had a bit of a shocker at SPD Cup, which she doesn't like to talk about, which was 437.5. Previously had done 457.5 at the Nationals before that. So those top 3, I think, are a little bit ahead of the next 2. So that's kind of where I want to focus most of this discussion. Hannah obviously is going to be a long way ahead after subtotal. Best squat at 69, 180. Best bench, 115, which puts her, what is that, 295 kilo subtotal. Is that right? Yeah, 295 kilo subtotal, which is quite a bit ahead of Leanne and quite a long way ahead of Kate. Where we will see things get interesting is like how far can Hannah push that gap? Like, can she make that gap insurmountable? And yeah, it will be interesting to see. I mean, I coach Kate, so I've had conversations with her about how far she's willing to go for her last deadlift and what matters as far as like what she will prefer, the win, the world's QT, whatever it is. I feel like I'm waffling now. Can you jump in?
No, I think an interesting point that I want to make about this category is, so Hannah Altman, Leanne Derrick, and Kate nominated totals 475, 475, 470, right? So all very close on total, but their deadlift bests go Hannah Altman at 190, Leanne at 202, and Kate at 217. So it's like a 12 kilo gap and then a 15 kilo gap. So unlike the previous example that we were talking about, where 2 weight classes ago, where you've got these lifters who got the same subtotals on the same deadlifts, it's actually going to be a very clear lifting order in those deadlifts. Like, you're going to be coaching Kate, and it's literally going to go, Hannah's going to do her first deadlift, and then Leanne's going to do her first deadlift, and then Kate will do her first deadlift. It'll be really easy in terms of knowing where you lie. You'll go into deadlifts knowing what the gaps are that you've got to make up. I'm talking from your point of view, coaching Kate. So in that sense, it'll be really easy to follow the flow of the competition. There won't be this jostling for lifting order or anything like that. It'll literally just, I often refer to it as a bit of a menu. Like, when it gets to Kate's last deadlift, you've got the choice. Do you want to go for, like you said, QT, first, second, third, if she has to, or whatever it is? You've got the choice there. So you've actually got 3 lifters of very different strengths and weaknesses, very different balances in terms of their lifter profiles.
Yeah, so Hannah will obviously, like I said, have that huge advantage on subtotal. Leanne is a little bit more balanced. She's good at all 3 lifts. And Kate is just a deadlift hero, like, of the nth degree. And yeah, like, this is a session which is really fun for me because we just kind of sit back and wait, and we know what our priorities are and we know what we want out of the meet. So we can just kind of load whatever we feel like we have, or maybe even more than we feel like we have, which, yeah, again, will be really fun. So the next 2 after Kate, Alexandra Bonner and Lagi Fruin, nominated at 460 and 457.5. So they're actually not too far away from that top 3. Provided that top 3 make attempts, I don't see any of these next 2 getting onto the podium. But as we've spoken about with the previous classes, if we have someone slip up, if Kate is deadlifting last, which I'm assuming she will be, one of these other two women may put themselves into third and force Kate to make a choice whether you want third, whether you want second, whether you want first. And that may mean that Kate or Leanne ends up off the podium because, deadlifting last gives you those choices. Is there much else to add?
So I was going to say, I think like it's a 10 kilo gap from fourth to third and a 12 kilo gap from fifth to third on nominations. That's one lift. Like that's literally one squat. Like you miss your third squat. A third squat jumps 7.5, 10 kilos at these ranges sometimes. So, you got three women here in Altman, Derek, and Atia. If any of them goes 2 out of 3, and one of those other twos, like Alexandra Bonner or Lange, go 3 out of 3, suddenly the doors have opened. So it's not unlikely that one of those girls is going to go 2 out of 3. Like I would say it's probably the most likely result is at least someone goes 2 out of 3. It's unlikely for all of them to go 3 out of 3. And so, if everybody has like a day as expected, it'll be those 3 at the top. But it's just one lift, one squat or one deadlift, or even one bench is 5 kilos. That 5 kilos could be the difference at the end of the day. So those I wouldn't so quickly write off Alexandra and Lange. And I know Lange particularly because she's lifted up my team champs and she is an executioner. She makes lifts under pressure and she's not afraid of that. So you just, if she's within reach, if she's 6 out of 6 at the subtotal, then it's all she can ask for.
Yeah. And similar with Bonner as well. She's done nationals a few times. She's competed internationally for Australia. She's got that experience as well. So we kind of expect execution at this top level. Like this is national championships. Like these are the best 5 lifters in this weight class at national championships. Like we expect them to make lifts. And if someone does fall down, we expect that the people below them will pick them off and make lifts. So again, another really exciting one. I think this class out of all the ones we've spoken about is the one that could go so many different ways. Like we could have 3 different national champions. We could have 5 different lifters on the podium. We can't really say that about a lot of the other classes. So this is the one of the ones that we will just have to see how it all shakes up.
And it's worth noting that the bench record particularly and the deadlift record are in a bit of danger. The bench record currently is 110.5 by Brittany Romas. And we know that Hannah Altman's bench 115 in competition, just not at the national level. So not credited with that national record. So I imagine that Hannah will also be able to get the chip advantage, which is worthwhile noting. If Hannah happens to be the heavier of the 3 lifters, all she needs to do is bench 113 or 115.5, and then suddenly she's got that advantage. So, but then on the other hand, Kate will be deadlifting the record, and so she'll also be able to undo that advantage anyway.
Yeah, and also worth noting, Leanne may be able to get a chip too. She has attempted 110 in the past. Her best is 107.5. Like she could get a 110.5 before Hannah does, and then Hannah gets a 113 or a 115.5 on her third attempt, and they both have chips. So, again, like a very interesting session. I actually honestly think that Hannah will have her eyes set on the squat record as well. Like I've seen her do she's just moved to Sydney actually, and she's been training at City Strength, and I've seen her do some crazy squat sets. She did 167.5 for a set of 5, I think. It might have been 6. It was 5. I think it was actually 6. And like, obviously that's super impressive. So I would not be surprised at all if she took the squat record as well. And if Hannah takes squat record and bench record, it's going to be probably a little bit tough for anyone to get her after that.
Shall we move on to the 76 kilo category?
Sure.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lifters in this category, 9 lifters in this class, and some familiar names at the top as expected. Our top nomination is Brittany Romas with 527, about 14, 15 kilos clear of Aslan Otway on 513.5, who is another 23 kilos clear of Naomi Goodger on 490, who's another 17 kilos clear of Steph Iosia. So a bit of spread at the top, but there is still going to be some interesting battles.
Yeah, so I think Brittany is the one here who's the most likely to win just because she's so well balanced. We look at Aislinn, who is the squat record holder and the deadlift record holder, but the bench is 20 kilos below what Brittany's done. So that kind of balance that Brittany has gives her that advantage across the board. She's not relying on one lift. She's executes at an extremely high level all the time. I think her last 3 meets, she's only missed one attempt, and that was a second deadlift at SPD Cup, which was 2 red lights for not locking out, and then she went up and got her third anyway. So essentially 9 for 9 there. So Brittany just doesn't really historically miss lifts, which I think plays to her advantage, as well as the balance that she has across the board. So Aislinn obviously newer to powerlifting than Brittany, making progress more rapidly. And honestly, she's a superstar. She has exceeded my expectations every single time she's competed. And I don't think this will be any different. Like, to improve how much she has in a very short time, like she has. I remember seeing her at Junior Nationals in 2024, and she came second in Junior Nationals in the 69 kilo class in 2024. And the following year, she won Open Nationals in the 69 class as a first year junior. And now she's going into the 76 class, her first ever comp at 76. She broke the squat record and the deadlift record. So like, we're just seeing this crazy progress from Aislinn, which is just so impressive. And I don't want to write her off. I do think Brittany has the tools and the balance across the board to get it all done, plus the level of execution required to do so. But like we said before, one slip up and Aislinn's definitely a chance. And I do expect Aislinn to pull last and have a go at the win. Like I think no matter what the number is, I think they'll go for the win on the last deadlift, which makes things really, really exciting. It's going to be up to Britt to put that deadlift number a little bit too far out of reach and force a miss. But yes, it'll be a really fun battle between these two.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that the last 2 comps that Aislinn's done, she's lifted at 76, if I'm not mistaken. So that was Oceania's in New Zealand and the SPD Cup. So the last time that she actually competed in this weight class, the 69 kilo. No, sorry, this is 76 kilo class. Wow, I'm really struggling today, aren't I? I misread the weight classes earlier. Okay, so 513.5 is right. It'll be close. Brittany's a favorite. Reiterating what you said, Naomi Goodger's the third nomination with 490. Also relatively kind of new, I suppose. Like, has done 4 comps, but carries herself like a seasoned veteran. I've seen her compete before at actually my most recent comp where she qualified for this nationals, and yeah, carries herself like a pro. So will be probably the favorite to round out the podium, but again, could slip into second place if the stars align that way. But at the same time, we'll have to defend the podium from Steffi Asia, who's only 17 kilos behind her, I suppose. Yeah,
so Naomi has made a ton of progress since going up to the 76 class. She was 440 and 457.5 at 69, just before the most recent comp of 490. So huge jump of, 32.5 kilo increase. 32.5 kilo increase from one comp to the next at already being, a 460 or 470 dots lifter, and then putting that much on your total is super, super impressive. So I expect to see another jump from her. Like, I expect to see her well into the 500s, which means that if those top 2 do slip up at all, Naomi has the biggest deadlift of those 3. She's nominated at 215, Aislinn 213, Britt 211. I would expect Naomi will save herself to pull last and try and put herself into second, which I think would be super fun to watch. And similarly with Steph, also only done one competition at 76, and her last 2 comps, 437.5 and 425 at 69. Jumping up to 76, done 472.5, which is, again, a big improvement, similarly to Naomi. And similarly to Naomi, has a big deadlift as well, nominated at 210. So all 4 of these top women are only within 5 kilos on deadlift, which just opens the door for more possibilities for people to jump around placings and make decisions to bump people off the podium and whatnot.
Yeah, you mentioned Naomi. This is her first, or she's only done 1 comp at this weight class 76, the first 3 comps of her career rule at 69. And I also want to make a comment here about the only comp she's done at 76, she weighed 73.1. So you said she's added 32.5 kilos to her total as she moved up a weight class. But in effect, she only moved up halfway. And so depending on what she's done with her body weight, if she's put on another 4 or 5% body weight in the prep, we could expect to see, like you said, her blow past the 500. So, when you're looking at previous results, you also have to take into consideration where their body weight was at and how long ago it was. And she was on the upward trend when she did that most recent comp. And so if she keeps that upward trend, puts on another couple of kilos of body weight, then it wouldn't be unsurprising to me for her to blow past 500s. And yeah, really give the top two a scare.
Yeah, and I think the way that the MD strength lifters train with the amount of volume that they do, you're almost at an extra advantage if you're gaining weight whilst doing it, like because you just have so much recovery resources at your disposal to actually like recover from the training that you're doing, and the amount of volume that they do is so impressive. And yeah, it's almost like having like an extra gear when you're doing all this training and then you're also in a calorie surplus and adding body weight, adding muscle tissue. It's just like, yeah, it's a huge advantage. So excited to see how 76 kilo shakes up. We're going to have some fun and important deadlift attempts at the end.
I wanted to round out that there are a number of other lifters who mightn't be so competitive to get onto the podium. We've got Catherine Kra, Lauren Findlay, Trinity Rushton, Andrea Hayes, and Dorota Bragg. With the lowest of those totals, 440, so still a very high standard. Obviously, you're lifting at the nationals and had to qualify. So none of those girls look like they're going to be pushing for the podium, although there could be a surprise in there thrown in. And in terms of the records, I wanted to touch on that. I think we did, or maybe we did touch on already, that the deadlift record's 213, and you got girls nominated at 211, 213, and 215. So very, very close. It sounds like that. And a 210, of course. Yeah. So it sounds like it's going to be a really hotly contested deadlift session, not only for placings, but for that record. And the bench record's 118.5. Britt's got that. And she's also benched 120 in the past. So again, looks like we might see that bench record get nabbed. And the squat record is Aislin's at 205.5. So it could be one of those sessions where all four records.
Yeah, I do think of all the sessions, this is probably the most likely where all four records go. And all the records are owned by lifters who are competing as well. So they have a chance to extend their own records or steal the others' records, which is very cool. All right, moving on. 84 kilo women. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's six women. So we've got Yan Fei Zhao, Destiny Batman Paris, Ajwa Hammond, Rebecca Tanchevsky, Lisa Vitalik, and Christy Ireland. So we have Yanni nominated way out in front at 557.5, who is, 70 kilos ahead of the next one. But then we have 4 lifters grouped within 15 kilos, which is going to make for extremely interesting competition and temp selection. I'll quickly start by talking about Yanni. So her most recent meet was actually a pretty disappointing one at World Championships. She went through a ton of personal stress, which I won't go into, but family stuff, which really zapped her kind of ability to train during the last 3 weeks of her prep, then obviously travel and all that. And she was only able to do 512.5, but previously to that, 557.5, 542.5, 535. So consistently kind of above that, around that sort of 540 mark. Her training has been pretty good. She's had quite a few niggles, leading into Worlds and after Worlds, which we had to like take several steps back. So we've gotten her to a point where she should be up pretty close to that 557.5. And I don't expect her to be challenged too much, but she will need to hit the World's QT, which is 530. And yeah, I do expect that she'll be able to do that. I do expect that she'll be able to have a crack at the squat record and the bench record. Deadlift, she's switched sumo, and I don't really know what the top end is at all. Like, we've barely gone near it. So that will be interesting. She even said to me this week, "Oh, do you think we can just do the comp conventional?" She hasn't conventional deadlifted in like 6 months. So I was like, probably not. And yeah, so I do expect Yanni will win the gold and be pretty untouched here. And will be interesting to see if she can get back to that 557.5.
Yeah, I think looking at, like you said, her last total, the 512.5 at the Worlds, it's as bad as a competition as she could have had. Obviously, contextually understandable, but if her bad day is 512.5, then I think she's wrapped up top place, unless barring one of the greatest disasters or chokes of all time. But like you said, the interesting battle here will be for second, because we've got 5 lifters all within 15 kilos. Destiny Batman Paris on 488. And then, so Destiny's a little bit ahead of the rest, because we have Adwa Hammond, Rebecca Chenchesky, and Lisa Vitalik on 475, 472.5, 472.5. So not only will the battle for second be really, really strong, but the battle for third will also be really, really close, because you got those 3 girls are within 2.5 kilos each other on nomination. Which again, like, we're getting towards the fringe classes, and it's good to see some contest happening in the total.
Mm. It is worth noting that Bethany Parker and Nicole Orr both pulled out of this competition, so they were both signed up, and I think we're both primed to give Yanni like a real run, which would have been fun. Unfortunately, both of them have pulled out. I'm not really sure the reasons why, but that's okay. And yeah, now we have 4 other women looking to challenge the podium. So starting off with Destiny, if we look at her last 3 competitions, she's gone 375 to 447.5 to 488. So those are some like pretty incredible improvements. And, if we just bake in another 30, 40 kilo improvement, she'll probably go pretty untouched for second. But again, like we've said, people slip up, other people improve. We may see Ajwa, Rebecca, or Lisa have a fantastic day and improve a lot and challenge her for second. If we look at the 4 of these lifters and their best deadlifts, so the nominated deadlifts, we've got 207, 210, 200, 212 and a half. So all 4 of these women are going to be deadlifting very similar weights, going to be taking very similar jumps, and going to be sort of bouncing around the podium as the attempts happen. And yeah, worth noting for Lisa, her nominated total 472.5 puts her sort of tied for 4th. But her competition before that was 487.5, so which would put her clear into 3rd. So I guess if we see a return to her best form at this nationals, then she'll be a very likely podium getter.
Yeah, I mean, 487.5 is right up there with the second place. So if Lisa's back at her top form, it'll be close. As you said, the podiums and the placings will be shifting with basically every deadlift attempt. And as I said earlier, when you've got lifters that are so close on actual deadlift numbers, the lifting order will change almost every round too. Like, you won't know. And so having to make strategic choices about not only your position on the podium, but also your position in the lifting order, because you want to generally go later, but generally going later means you have to put more weight on the bar, and if it's unnecessary, then you don't want to waste energy. So a lot of decisions have to happen very quickly. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing that 84 kilo battle unfold. I don't think any of their records are really in danger, because Yanni's got 2 of them, and if she's not at her top form, then maybe she won't get there. But of course, you mentioned the bench record might be an option. I know that the bench record's 129 from Beth. She did that, Beth Parker, at SBD Cup recently in October. And I've seen Yanni bench 130 plus in the gym, 135, I think even.
Yeah, Yanni did 135 in the lead up to last year's Worlds. She's sort of been in the 125 to 130 range this prep. She actually got her final bench today, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if Yanni looks good on the day, we'll have a crack at squat and bench, which will kind of allow us to pull a lot less and just hit the QT and kind of just simmer at the end. Otherwise, we'll have to deadlift a bit more than expectation. But yeah, really interesting battle for second and third here. Obviously, Ajwa and Rebecca, 2 really, really good friends competing against one another for medals, which is cool. So yeah, looking forward to it.
The 84 kilo plus category only has 4 lifters in there, and as is sometimes the case with the more fringe classes and the 84 plus and the super heavyweight class, there's a bit of a spread. So we have from the top, Lucy, Sokovetti, Rebecca, and Ash, with totals going 685, 620, 507.5, 465. So a bit of a spread there.
Yeah, sorry, 520 for Sokovetti, not 620.
Sorry, 520.
Yeah, so Lucy, obviously, provided she doesn't bomb, will win, like no doubt about it.
I think she appeared on one of the recent episodes of Lift Talk. Shout out.
She did. She was the most recent one.
Okay, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah. So Lucy, best total 685. 165 kilos ahead of the next person. So definitely untouched here. Could be looking to break her own squat, bench, and total records. We will see. She does look like she's in pretty good form. I know she mentioned a few weeks ago that she was like not feeling amazing, but it's all kind of coming together now for her. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing her. She's so fun on the platform, just has such a good time. Her whole family will be there cheering. Her brother will be lifting in the same session. So maybe the entire country of Tonga will be there. And yeah, super fun lifter, obviously extremely strong. And I think for her, like, this competition is a lot less important than the next competition, which for her will be World Championships, where she'll be looking to make the podium for the first time. Came fourth last year at Worlds. Obviously, Australia's very own Natalie Lalai was the bronze medalist, and she has sort of retired from powerlifting for now. Hopefully she comes back, which has kind of made way for Lucy. There's a few other women who are around her sort of level. There's a woman from Britain and a woman from New Zealand who are sort of around Lucy's level. So it will be a fun battle for Luce at Worlds for that bronze. And yeah, I guess this Nationals may end up being a stepping stone. We'll see how far she pushes it. She may just come in and do what she needs and save her juice for Worlds, or she may come in and put on a show.
Nothing more to add from me on Lucy. I mean, I don't know very well, and as you said, very decorated athlete. Has gone to Worlds, has won Nationals before, so that's a wrap up. But the second place will be a little bit more of a battle. I misread the nominations there. It's 520 and 507.5 for Sokovetti and Rebecca Blinken. Do you have any insights there, Alex?
I know that Rebecca is coached by Liz. So she was last year's bronze medalist, big squatter, good bench press, deadlift a little bit behind Sokovetti. I don't know much about her. I know she's only done 2 competitions. She did 517 and 520. I'm fairly sure she's quite young, and I do expect her to put on quite a big improvement from last one to this one. So if I were to guess, I would say that Sokovetti kind of ends up like in the mid 500s and Rebecca's sort of in that low 500s, and we have a bit of a spread from where these nominations are.
Excellent. That rounds out our women's preview. Alex, do you want to talk about expectations for best female lifter now, or do you want to do that at the end?
No, let's do that now. So I think this is only really a 2-horse race between Lucy and Vicky.
Which is pretty sick. That is both ends of the spectrum, hey?
Yeah. So I guess we'll see how hard they both go. We've obviously mentioned in each of their weight class wrap-ups that this comp is like only really a stepping stone to Worlds, and they just kind of have to do what they have to do, and whether they decide to go all out is kind of up to them, like, because they definitely don't have to. So I guess if Vicky does go all out, Lucy will have to go all out to get best lifter. I know last year Lucy did win best lifter over Vicky because Lucy made all of her third attempts and Vicky just missed one deadlift. So, it literally came down to one lift, and I expect similar this year, provided they actually go all out. But we will see.
There's always the advantage that Lucy has of knowing what the target is and not having to defend anything because she's going to win anyway. So it'll literally be a case of, all right, what's the total we need? Let's write up the comp plan and let's just nail it on the second or third deadlift, depending on what the pacing is like. So in that sense, you'd kind of have to lean towards Lucy, but of course, it's great to see, like I said, basically the lightest class and the heaviest class are the ones that are fighting for that best lifter award.
Yeah, and last year we saw Natalie Lalai pull not for the win, but for best lifter instead, because she knew she was going to Worlds anyway. So it was like, I think she needed like 293 for the win, but 304 for best lifter. So I said they went for the 304. So we'll see if that happens this year with Lucy. Yeah, could be really interesting. I think we might take a bit of a break now.
Yeah, let's take a break.
We'll come back for the men's. Check in with you shortly. All right, everyone, welcome back to Lift Talk, the APA 2026 Nationals preview show with Alex Hayes and John Paul Kauke. We've done the women's. We're going to go on to the men's side of the bracket. Hopefully we can keep this to around an hour. But we'll start off with the 59 kilo class. We have 3 lifters in the 59 kilo class. We actually had 3 lifters last year, and it was 2 of the same plus 1 different guy. So we've got one guy subbed in. We've got Adrian subbed in for a guy from Underperformance. I'm forgetting his name. So we've got Jonas Madeira, we've got Kyohi Yasuoka, and we've got Adrian Abella. Now, Kyohi likes to be called K, so we can call him K for the rest of this to make it easier. Now, they are nominated in that order, with Jonas nominated 555, K nominated 540, and Adrian nominated 533. Now, I've kind of grouped them as Jonas ahead of the other 2. Even though they're only 15 kilos apart on the nominations, Jonas did 610 in September at Power Pals. He weighed in at like 64 kilos. I don't know how heavy like his training weight was relative to that. I don't think he would have cut for that. But 610 at 66 or 64 is, in my mind, like a huge gap between these next 2. And I feel like we will see something in the high 500s for Jonas, which is super cool because he will likely break the total record, which is currently 565, likely break the squat record, which is currently the standard at 200, and likely break the deadlift record. But not only that, is he'll actually put himself in pretty good standing on the world stage. 59 kilo class, obviously being a fringe class, not a whole ton of competitors. And, this will put him in I'll actually look it up when I pass over to you, what the standings were last year at Worlds. But it will put him in really good stead for Australia to achieve some really good team points at World Championships, provided he actually wants to go. So I kind of see the 59s as a, not necessarily a runaway, but a clear favorite with Jonas in first, and then Kay and Adrian battling it out for second place.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be honest, Alex. I don't know these lifters very well at all. But as you said, like a 610 total at 64 kilos, I'd be hard pressed to believe that cutting down to 59 kilos is going to cost you 50 kilos in your total. So as you said, probably it looks like he'll end up around the 500s, high 500s, which just puts him too far in front, I suppose, of the other 2. Kind of like what we said on the women's side, with the 47 kilo class in the women's, to see, a bit of depth in the 59s is good. Only 3 lifters, but they've got a very high standard, all over 500, and there's nobody that's like really so far behind, I suppose. You mentioned the squat record is currently a standard at 200 kilos, and the nominated squats are 200, 195, and 195.5. And so all 3 of those lifters could be going for that record. It's going to be a question of how do you actually end the day with it? Do you go for the record in the second attempt and hope that everybody misses? Do you wait and then maybe someone pushes the record beyond a weight that you can kind of tolerate? It's a bit of a tricky one. Do you go to equal 200 on your second attempt, for example? Or, it depends on how these boys' training have gone. But it looks like that squat record will get pushed by all 3. The bench record is currently held by Kay, and so he could push that. And as you said, the total record looks like it's going to get blown apart by Jonas.
Yeah, so just looking up quickly 2025 World Championships results. Third place was 587.5. So that gives Jonas the ability to kind of lose quite a few kilos in his total and still be within a hunt for a podium at Worlds. So I really hope he decides to go. He did put up a huge training total, like close to SPD Cup, and he was like, "Why didn't you invite me? This would have got me bronze at Worlds." And it was like, "Well, you didn't do that at Nationals, so we couldn't invite you on training lifts." But yeah, he's got a ton of potential. He's made a lot of progress in the last year. His last two totals before the 610 were 555 and 560. So some really big progress across the board. He has a very smart coach, Alex Foreman, who will know what to do. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how he goes. And then the battle for second will come down to deadlifts at the end because, Kay and Adrian separated by only half a kilo on squat, separated by a little bit more than that on bench press with K 133, Adrian 120. But Adrian does have that deadlift advantage. And it's been a while since K has put up a deadlift that he was like reflective of his prep. His last competition, he only deadlifted 205. So there's a chance there that he leaves the door open for Adrian to pull for that silver medal at the end. So very interesting to see how that all plays out.
The 66 kilo class, one that is close to my heart. Looking forward to this weight class, watching it all unfold for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because obviously we've got Josh, who's one of my boys lifting in that class and fighting for the podium, but also because I'm the 2015 66 kilo Australian champ, just letting you know.
2015.
Yeah, my total was 607.5.
And the 2016 gold medalist in the deadlift at IPF Worlds.
Correcto. Don't never forget it. But yeah, the 66 kilo class, the standards have risen a lot since then. And our top nomination is Chris Yip, followed by Josh Liu, Julie Neskro, Yuki Kashima, and trailing a little bit behind those guys is Zachary Toravias, John Chan, Ezra Duma, Vin Nguyen, Leo Lee, and the ever-present Raymond Wong.
The GOAT. He's back.
One of the goats, one of many goats. So Chris Yip, 660, 10-time bodyweight total, freaking incredible lifter, has a long, successful history in powerlifting, has the current deadlift Australian record of 305, which is just insane at 66 kilos.
Equal to the 74.
What's that?
It's equal to the 74 deadlift record.
Yes, equal to 74 kilo. It should be the 74 kilo record. That's what I would do. Won Australian champs last year, won the national title last year at 66, has gone to Worlds a couple of times, maybe twice, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think only once. Only once. Yeah.
And
he had a crack at the deadlift world record last year at Worlds.
Yeah, correct. And so, yeah, I think it was 317 or 318 he went for. And so he's the clear favorite. He can be a little bit of a mystery sometimes. You can be quite interesting. You never really know. Like he could do 680, but he could do 640. He has been consistently at the 660 mark in terms of his ability, but he's I don't know what the right word is I'm looking for here, but he can be a bit of a surprise sometimes.
Erratic, maybe?
Yeah, maybe not erratic. Maybe like he can be quite private on social media, and so he doesn't post stuff, and then he'll randomly post something really rogue. I mean, the most impressive lift I've ever seen him do is a 350 kilo deadlift on a deadlift bar at 75, which is just insane. That was years ago, and I know it's a different context, but like that is an insane deadlift. When I saw that was like, yeah, I've got no words to describe it. So he definitely has the capacity and the ability to lift freaking enormous weights. So I'm looking forward to seeing him most likely win the Australian title this year.
Yeah, I feel like, you said he has a bit of a spread on what his sort of like outcomes are. Like there's a bit of variance. But I actually think that he's fixed a lot of that very recently. Like we've seen him execute at a much higher level in his last few comps than prior to that. Whether he's like fixed on it, he's figured out his grip on his deadlifts and he's making more deadlifts now. He's figured out his squat depth and he's making more squats now. I feel like he's actually very, very likely to do 660 or more. Like I wouldn't think that he would do 640, like you said. Like I feel like he has the track record now of being a high executor and a lift maker and someone who is just very consistent. He's also extremely level-headed. He comes out onto the platform. He's very chill, which I think plays into his ability to be able to make lifts. Like he doesn't wear himself out with extra hype and stuff like that. So I fully expect him to win. But this battle for second is going to be very interesting. Josh Liu, 635, which is his best total. And he was previously competing in the 74, 75 kilo class for a few years before that. Decided to come back down and improved, which is incredible. Particularly the deadlift improved. The squat and the bench actually dropped off a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if he can reclaim those kilos now that he's stayed in the 66 for a little bit longer. I know he does very big cuts, so perhaps that's what's affecting the subtotal. You could probably talk on this more. Like, tell me how Josh's training has been going and what you kind of expect out of him from the subtotal.
Josh is insane in the best way possible. He went on a 3-week holiday and got back a week ago. Yeah, and so he got back effectively, what is it going to be, like 16 days out? He got back from a 3-week holiday, going through Thailand and going to raves and just having a great time.
He didn't train?
He trained the whole time, and it wasn't the best experience. I know he got really sick, and when I spoke to him about like going on this holiday before Nats, like it's so strange because like he takes his training so seriously. Like he's taking this nationals very seriously. He has like the mentality of an absolute like athlete. He holds his chin up high. He wants to win that silver medal, and he is ready to go for that gold if Chris Yip stumbles. And at the same time, he lives his life, and he's, like I said, gone on this overseas holiday, and he'd come back, and when he got back from his trip, his like lifts were down. Like he did his deadlifts like last week, and I just looked at him like, what the hell was that? And he just was not phased. He was like, it's all good. Next week will be up. Like I'm down this week, but next week will be up. The week after will be up, and then I'll do my meet, and then I'll be up again. And he has full faith in his ability to go past his 635 total, which I just think, and it's not fake. It's not like this pretend of like, I want to believe it. No, he genuinely believes that he'll go past 635. And I believe it too, because even in the last week since he's been back, you can see the momentum's already shifting upwards. Like his lifts are looking better already. So yeah, he's a fighter, and he'll have to be, because there's a number of lifters that are quite close in Julian and Yuki.
Well, I'm handling Josh, and now I feel a bit nervous after you told me that he's been away and training in Thailand and getting food poisoning or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I've known Josh since 2016 or so. I remember I was 2017 Singapore Oceanas, and he had to travel to a sauna, and no one knew where he was because he didn't have a phone. And he turned up with like 10 minutes left in weigh-in, and naked in a towel, and jumped on the scale and made weight at 59, and had a really good comp. I think he broke junior world deadlift record at that competition in the 59 class.
241.
Yeah, and that kind of exemplifies his character, I think. And like he's just a competitor. I remember like another comp not long after that, he was shadow boxing in the sauna to make weight whilst playing like motivational Goggins type videos, literally shadow boxing so he could sweat more right before a meet. And that was the meet where he missed his first 2 deadlifts and pulled for the win at junior nationals. I think it was like, yeah, he literally missed his first 2 deadlifts, took a big jump to his third for the win. If he misses, he bombs. If he makes it, he wins the national title and goes to worlds or whatever it was. And he made it. So I guess the moral of the story is don't write off Josh no matter what, which is super cool. So it comes in with the biggest deadlift of the sort of next group, nominated at 280, which will give him the chance at the end to select which medal color he wants, provided he's having a good day. Julian Escrow is one who I don't know a lot about, but we obviously did research on all these lifters, and the 627.5 that he's nominated at was actually his first comp at 66. Previously he was in the 74, and he did 647.5 the competition before that. So he did lose a little bit on his bench press and a little bit on his deadlift with the cut. So, similar to Josh, if we see him regain some of that strength after coming, down a class, he could be well and truly a chance at the silver. And then finally Yuki Kashima, who was last year's bronze medalist in this class and 2024's silver medalist in this class. He's still the bench press record holder. Definitely can't be written off. He has had a recent surgery and he's like returning from the surgery. I don't know what the surgery was, to be honest. But he's started at quite a low base and he's built himself back up very, very quickly. And, I expect him to be in the fight. Again, he is a competitor. I'll tell a story of 2024 Nationals. He missed his first 2 bench presses and he decided to go up for his third attempt. And he literally missed his first 2 bench presses on strength. Like the bar didn't move. He went out the back. He went up on his third attempt, changed his t-shirt, came back and made his third attempt, which kept him in the meet and kept him at a chance for the win. Ended up finishing second with Andrew Trieu pulling for the win. That was like a really, really exciting session. But again, Yuki's one of those people you can't write him off. He, similar to Josh, has just crazy self-belief. Like he just always believes that he's capable of doing whatever is required. And, that could play into his hands. It could not, but he'll never stop believing that he's capable. And this is a really, really exciting battle. Could go any way. Any of these 3 gentlemen could be second. Any of them could be third. Any of them could be fourth, which makes it super exciting.
The 74 kilo category.
I will say before we go to the 66, I don't really want to talk about you.
I want to talk about me. Come on.
Can we skip you?
I'm only here to talk about me. I'm only here for you to talk about me. That's what I want to say.
I don't want to talk about you. Before we go off the 66 class, I know there's a lot of these guys, Vin, Ezra, Zach, who are all really keen on this sort of like battle for 4th/5th, which will be really exciting because it's very close between the next group of lifters. So shout out to all those boys. Looking forward to seeing who comes up on top.
I do wish there was like something to fight for at that level, like whether you finish 4th or 6th, like it kind of doesn't matter. Like it is nicer to say that you finish 4th and 6th, but there isn't much in terms of like concrete takeaways or meaning, I suppose. So it would have been nice, but I mean, I guess that's sport.
I think for them, like I think there may be international QTs that they could hit. So it could be like, if you hit this, I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I think they could all be within range of the regional QTs. So perhaps that's something to look for if they're out of the podium hunt. It's like, okay, well, maybe I could get myself to Commonwealths or I can get myself to Oceanians or whatever it is. All right, moving on, 74 kilo class. Now, we were looking forward to a very tight battle for first between Kian and Stephen Day. But Stephen Day has disappeared from the nominations list. And
do we know why, Alex?
He has posted on his story that life is a party and he's a piñata.
Very incriminating.
Which leads me to believe that he suffered some sort of injury. I don't want to speculate because I don't know the details. But I'm feeling for Steve because I know this was like his return to Australia. He's been living in England for a little bit. And I know that he was looking forward to becoming, again, the best 74 in Australia. He still does have the best ever total in the IPF in 74 in Australia with 750, which is actually higher than the Australian record of 748. I feel for Steve. I'm sure he's really bummed out that he can't be here. Don't know why exactly, but presume it's injury. And hopefully he can get back to his best. I know Steve is, again, one of these lifters with incredible self-belief and determination and work ethic beyond measure. Almost to the point of his own detriment at times where, he came on Lift Talk, one of the early episodes, and talked about how, he just ignores pain and he just trains through it. And that is why he is as good as he is, but it is also why he's had periods of time where he's had to take steps back through injury. So I hope this is just another one of those where he's able to get back to his best. But because of no Steve, we have Kian. Sorry, I'll just go through all the lifters first before we go into more details. We have Kian, we have Ed, Zhang, we've had Alan Zhu, Chad Oddsey, Jean-Paul Kalki, Misha Baucus, Jason Sickett, and Jared Quinto. So that's our 7 or 8 lifters in the 74 kilo class. So Like I said, we were looking forward to a battle between Kian and Steve. It will just be Kian, who's sort of like well out in front now, nominated at 742, and honestly looking so strong, like looking so incredibly strong. I'm very excited to see what he's able to put together. He had a period of meets where he was kind of, a little disappointing. His execution wasn't there. And his last two meets have been flawless, have been fantastic. And he's really like kind of flipped the script and flipped the narrative in his own favor in terms of like his ability to execute and his ability to make lifts and just continue getting stronger. That 742 is what he did at last year's Nationals. He did 730 at Worlds. I think he came fifth as well, fifth or sixth at Worlds last year. Incredibly strong lifter, incredibly well-rounded. I think he probably has a shot at the bench press record, but neither the squat nor the deadlift, and obviously the total record as well. So I do expect Keane to be kind of a little bit away from the rest of the pack here.
Yeah, I mean, not only is he looking really strong in training, but he looks just locked in. Like he just gives this aura of like he's locked in. He's on a mission. And just quickly, I want to also share my thoughts on Steve not being able to make it to this meet for whatever reason, whether it's personal or injury. Otherwise, of course, as a fan of powerlifting, very disappointed. Like this is one of the ones I was looking forward to most. It's my class. To watch Keen and Steve go head to head was going to be incredible. Like I would have been just as happy to watch that as I am lifting. So yeah, massive shame that Steve's not there. I know he's won an Australian champs before and has competed internationally. And a little bit like Keen, he's also locked in and loves his training. So yeah, it's a massive shame. But yeah, Keen will be pushing for that bench record. I think I've seen him bench 190 in the gym, and even the total record 748. I mean, he'll do. I think if he has a good day, he'll blow past that. Honestly, like into the 760s and 770s. Alex and you and I have spoken about, and I know he really wants to get to Worlds. Like I know that is his number one priority, and so I suspect at least what I would do if I was in that position where you've got first place locked in is like just make sure you get it, because the only way that you don't get it Worlds is you freaking don't make weight or you bomb. And so like if I'm in that position, whatever your planned openers are, drop them all by 10 kilos. Just get your openers in, and your second attempt can be 5 or 10 kilos below what it normally would be. Just get the total, because of course he looks strong enough to total 770, but if you only need 730 or 740 or whatever the QT is, at least go do that. Don't get ahead of yourself. Get the job done and lock in for the next 4 months in the lead up to Worlds.
Just to add to that, I think there's also an added element of lifters at this level wanting to make it to the A group at Worlds. So
okay, interesting.
As much as like obviously 74 class will probably have 3 groups at Worlds, maybe even 4 groups at Worlds, one of the most populated classes. You want to be, ensuring that you make it to A group. I think he made it to A group last year, I think he was like the last person in on what he did last year, which was 742. So I would expect he probably needs 750, 755, 760 to guarantee that A group spot. So I actually do expect Keane to go quite hard. And I think he extends the total record by, a good chunk, 15, 20 kilos.
That's actually such an interesting consideration, and one I hadn't actually thought of, Alex. So, although he's racing on his own effectively, there is that thing in the back of your mind of like, you'd hate to be 9th or 10th nominated. It's usually 8 in the A group. Even if you're not a chance of winning Worlds or being on the podium, you want to be in the A group. You want to be in the primetime session. You want to be sharing the platform with Austin Perkins and with those top guys in the 74s. And so you don't want to be lifting at 10 a.m. You want to be lifting at 5, 6 p.m. So that's probably going to be in the back of his mind as well.
Yeah, and it does kind of suck that you can't see these rankings or nominations anywhere, so you don't really know what to shoot for. So in a way, you kind of just have to do your best. So I think Keane can kind of treat this like a local meet for a lower level lifter of like, hey, let's just put up the best total we can. We'll be conservative on our thirds. We'll make sure that we make our thirds, but we're going to do what we can. Like we're going to put up a really big total.
Yeah, definitely keen to see it. But the next 5 lifters are all fairly close, and it could go in many directions. Alex, you want to talk us through it so I don't provide any biased opinions?
So Ed Zhang from Sydney. I believe Alan is from Melbourne. Correct me on that.
I'm personally not too sure, actually.
Okay.
Based on his open lifting, I presume so, but I actually don't know him.
I'm fairly sure he's from Melbourne. He has a huge bench. Ed Zhang, Sydney, he's just come out of the juniors. I believe this is his first year out of the juniors, or maybe his second year out of the juniors. He was up at 700 when he was 20, and he had quite a bad back injury and took several steps back. But he's now back above 700. He did 710 at his last comp, 705 the one before that. And his training has been phenomenal. Like, he is looking really, really strong. I expect that Ed is actually the runaway second place here. And I expect that we end up with a battle, like a 3, 4, 5-way battle for third, with the sort of the next group. Like, I expect Ed, particularly on his ability to squat and subtotal. His best squat is 272.5. The record is 283. Like, perhaps we even see a crack at that. That might be a little bit optimistic, but perhaps we even see a crack at that. The bench is nominated at 175. Perhaps we see him look at that record, which is currently 182.5. Like, I do consider Ed to be a step ahead of this next group. But after Ed, we've got Alan Zhu nominated 700. Got Chad Odsey 685. John Polkowski 672.5, and Misha Baucus 670. So that's a pretty tight grouping. I mean, 30 kilo gap is, the difference in 2 made lifts. So, a 6 for 9 day for someone could just completely drop them out of contention. A 7 for 9 day for someone could completely drop them out of contention and allow one of these other guys to pull themselves up. Like I mentioned with Alan, huge bench press and a big deadlifter. Similar sort of split to Chad in, they're only split by 2.5 to 5 on squat and bench. So I expect things to be very back and forth between Alan and Chad. And then yourself, JP, you're kind of a little bit below those two, but you have that deadlift advantage at the end. Like, you're going to be well behind on the subtotal, and you're just going to kind of be waiting to see what you need at the end for that bronze medal. And what are your thoughts going into this? Are you thinking like, I'm just going to attempt whatever I need for a medal? Or are you just, if it's a bit out of reach, are you going to settle for something else?
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting for me. I think there is obviously a part of me that wants to fight for the podium, and if the opportunity is there, I'll take it. But at the same time, I've been lifting for 12 or 13 years at this point, and I've won a couple of nationals myself. And so is really a bronze medal at a nationals going to be that important to me compared to my own personal reasons for being there? Like, I'm just happy to be on the platform, and I'm just grateful to be going to a nationals. That 672.5 nominated total that I have isn't representative of my ability. Unavoidably, my goal is to total 700. And I've done that once before at 82.5, never at 74. And if I do 700, it'll also be the best total by points on any formula. And so for me, I mean, a 700 kilo total is just such a high priority that if I needed 705 for bronze, I just don't know if I would be willing to do it. And I think I would be kicking myself if I didn't just get my 700 kilo total and tick it off the list. At the same time, I have been sucked into going for big deadlifts many a time. And so in the heat of the moment, maybe I'll be headbutting the wall and telling you, Alex, just load up to 320. Like, I'll do anything to get whatever I need. So yeah, it is actually a difficult position for me in that sense. As you said, I think I am a little bit behind Alan and Chad, but as we've said numerous times on this episode, if the opportunity arises, if I have a good day and someone misses a lift or two here or there, then opportunities. Yeah, if the opportunity is there, I'll go take it. It's up to you. You've got the cards in your hand.
Worth noting the deadlift record is 305. So, that could be the other priority. It's like, okay, we've got kind of 3 options here. We can total 700. We can go for the record, or we can get on the podium. Like, which one would you like? So that might be the play. Also worth noting that of the top 6, your bench is the lowest by 35 kilos.
Was it necessary? What was that necessary?
Yeah, it was.
Why is this even? This isn't even relevant conversation. Holy
it's relevant
hell,
because
I'm going to be opening a bench. That's good to know. I know the lifting order already, guys. We know the lifting order.
JP's opening on bench at 120.
What's Jared Quinto's open bench press? We don't know. That's who I don't know.
Probably still better than yours.
Oh goodness gracious. A lot of work to do there.
Yeah, so yeah, 74s. Kian looks like the runaway first. I think Ed looks like the runaway second, but I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. Maybe Alan, yourself, Chad, Misha could all challenge for second. Perhaps Ed has a subpar day. We don't know. And then we've got a nice race on our hands for that third place spot. And like I mentioned, you've got the best deadlift of the lot, so you're going to have the choice at the end. So yeah, be interesting to see how it plays out.
I'm excited for it, as I've said numerous times. Okay, the 83 kilo category, another weight class where it looks like there's going to be a runaway favorite, as every weight class has been in the men's. It is City Strength's Kana Chambara with an 800 kilo nominated total. Following him will be Diego Florenca, Kavwa, Sishone, William Wharton, Brian Kimutai, Kelvin Tran, and Nissan Jerung. So fairly competitive overall, but there are some gaps in the nominated totals.
Yeah, so Kana nominated 800. His training has looked outstanding. He squatted 297 on Monday. He benched 180 for a couple of singles on Wednesday, and he pulled 315 yesterday. Witnessed all those. He's looking very, very strong. He always tapers really well. He has a really good track record of making lifts, except for his last two comps where he's only made 2 out of 3 squats. So, it will be interesting to see if he is able to, how far he's able to push this total. He obviously has the record. He will not be attending Worlds because he has issues with getting a visa. Such dramas with this. I won't even go into it, but it's dramas. He actually wants to save the total a little bit for SPD Cup so he can break it by more at SPD Cup. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kana kind of like sandbags himself a little bit, maybe skips his last deadlift to preserve the total and just make sure that he wins. His obviously number one priority is winning. So if he has to do 820 to win, that's what he would do. But the next priority is ensuring that he doesn't exceed the total by too much, that he makes his work too hard for SPD Cup. So kind of lame, but also like I get it.
I'd love to see him do like if he's 6 out of 6 and then like deadlift opens to 800 or second attempt to 800 and then pass the rest of it. Just like match your total and no more and be like, I could do more. Kind of like when I think Austin Perkins did something like that, maybe at Worlds the year before or something. But yeah, he's a heavy favorite. And then in second nomination, 40 kilos behind with a total of 760 nominated, Diego Florenca.
Yeah, so Diego's from Perth. He's made enormous strides very recently. Extremely, extremely strong, and I believe pretty young still, and on his way up.
Just out of juniors.
Yeah, so 692.5 into 760, and then most recently 752.5. So nominated a bit ahead of the rest of the pack, but that definitely doesn't guarantee him a silver. I think the next sort of grouping is quite tight, and we could see any of these guys challenge for that silver medal. What Diego does have in his favor is outside of Kana, he has the biggest deadlift nominated at 320, which puts him within striking distance of attempting the record, currently 327.5, and also gives him the chance to pull last and decide his own fate. So given he has the highest nominated total and also the highest nominated deadlift outside of Kana, I think he's a reasonably safe silver medalist, but obviously nothing is guaranteed in sports, and that's kind of why we watch. But after Diego 760, we've got Carver, William, and Brian with a 10 kilo spread, and then Kelvin 10 kilos behind them. You've seen Carver lift for a long time now. Tell us about him.
Carver is a freaking beast. He's a physical specimen. He's lifted, I think, he's New Zealander, but he lives in Melbourne, and so he lifts between NZPF and whoever he is, the Australian IPF affiliate at the time. Super strong. He's trained at my gym a couple of times. Like, he'll do the odd casual every now and again. Moves between weight classes, has lifted as light as 66 and then 83. I think he's won NZPF nationals like 5 times, which is actually a bit of a task because New Zealand powerlifting produces some very strong lifters, most notably Monagatti in the 83s and 74. So he's often kind of fighting for those placings there. But he can be very inconsistent. I know his most recent competition was at a local comp that I was at as well. Missed his squat opener on depth, went up, got it, missed his third attempt squat. So he has a bit of a habit of doing that. That said, though, he does. What am I doing? Yeah, no, sorry, no, I've misread it. Sorry, in his last comp, he got, I think it was 2 white lights on his squat opener, went up and got it, and then went up and missed on depth. So he's often had depth issues. And I mean, even just looking at his open powerlifting, his last 3 comps, he's gone 2 squats, he's gone 2 benches in 3 of the last 4 comps. And so despite a huge resume, like a very long resume, over 10 years competing, is a little bit inconsistent in terms of execution. So one of those lifters that could, on a good day puts up, like, has a bit of a spread, I suppose. Like, he's not the kind of lifter that's like a Sam Forsberg, who we're going to talk about later, who's always within 5 or 10 kilos of his best total. Carver has a habit of having really good days and having kind of not so good days, depending on how the referees adjudicate his execution. So yeah, very, very strong lifter. Not necessarily improving a lot, I suppose, being in his mid-30s now, but always a threat, I suppose.
Yeah, I think with Carver, you kind of said it there, is his spread of possibilities. Like, he could come second, he could also come sixth.
Yeah, exactly right.
And, because the spread of lifters is so close, all it takes is a couple of misses, and that's almost the expectation with Carver, is that there will be a couple of misses. I hope that he proves us wrong and he comes out and just nails a 9 for 9 day and does like 780. Like, that would be fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But the history is the history, and we have to kind of call that out. That we do expect some shaky execution, and obviously we hope he executes. And then there's Will Wharton. Again, he's from Melbourne. You probably know more about him than I do. But he's been 740 his last couple of comps. You mentioned, you wrote in the notes here, chronically underweight, and that was what I was going to say about him too, is that he always weighs in really light. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised at this point that he hasn't gone down to the 74, because he would be like a real threat at like a silver or in the 74. Like, he's at 740, that would be nominated second. Well-rounded lifter, 270 squat, 170 bench, 305 deadlift, like very, very good at all of the lifts. I know that at his last comp, he missed his final deadlift, so he would have been looking somewhere up in the 750s with a make there. So someone with an enormous potential, and I hope eventually he fills out the class and really sees what he's capable of, because he's got really, really big potential.
Yeah, I mean, in his last 3 comps have happened in the since, or basically mostly in 2025, over the last 14 months or so. He's weighed 78.4, 80.3, and 79.3. So like basically with 4 kilos to spare. And you mentioned, hopefully he fills out the class and shows off his potential. Maybe he has. I'm not really quite sure. Maybe he's put on 2 or 3 kilos. And if you put on 2 or 3 kilos, that's like what, 3 or 4% body weight. If you put on 3 or 4% body weight, that's like 2%, on your total. And 2% on your total at 750 is like, do the math for me, 15 extra kilos. So you could be doing 755 without even getting stronger. Like, just put on 2 kilos of weight and you've got 15 kilos on your total. And so, I'm not too quite sure. Like, the fact that he's totaled 740 in his last 2 comps tells you that strength is a very stable strength. It's not like he had a great day and fluked his way there or something, or that shows that he's proven that he can do it. And so if he's stabilized at 740 for a while, maybe now he's seeing a bit of an uptick. So Will's a very talented lifter.
That is what you tend to see, is that when people sort of total around the same number a few times in a row, they're actually due for a surge. And you could say the same about Brian, who's our next lifter. This is his first meet out of the juniors. He's silver medalist at the last 2 junior nationals, totaling 735 at the recent junior nationals, and just losing on the last pull. Like, the guy who went after him pulled for the win, and he lost some body weight. Super, super strong lifter, very, very high level of execution, and obviously still a junior, so lots of room for improvement. And yeah, like really well-rounded too, like similar lifts to Will, like 2.5 less than Will on squat and the same bench and the same deadlift. So like those two will be jostling the whole day. This is a really interesting class. And then the kind of the last person who I consider to be a chance at the podium is Kelvin, who I've been coaching. Similar to the last two guys, last two comps, same total, kind of expecting another surge going to this next one. Deadlift has been the one lift that's been improving really, really well. Like I think he's a little bit crazy for this, but he thinks that he's a chance at the deadlift record, which is like would be a 20 kilo PB. So I think he needs to pump the brakes, but hey, having that belief means something. The last comp he did 725 with a missed squat. So expect to see some improvement there. He's had a good prep. He's benched well above what he's done in comp. His deadlift is looking really smooth and easy. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how Kelvin goes and seeing if we're within range of pulling for the podium or not.
Great. The 93 kilo category. Very hotly contested. We have 10 lifters there. I'm just going to go through the list in order of top nomination is Kevin Lai, who has the total record of 812.5. Following him is Jonathan Caruso, Josh Takua, Simon Shahadi. So kind of like a star-studded list there of accomplished lifters. Following a little bit behind, Dean Sabao, Lennox Liu, Joseph Wu, Ethan Lim, Aaron Urbani, and Jaden Benedictos. Unsurprisingly, the central weight class is a little bit deeper, more competition, more names and bodies at that weight, and it's going to be a close battle for the top position.
Yeah, and it's already deep, but we're also missing last year's winner Adam Jones, and the lifter who has the highest total in APA in 93. It's not the record because it was in a local comp, Nathan Tannis. So this could be like a 6-way battle for first if we had everyone available, which goes to show the depth in this class. And a really interesting one, probably, alongside the 69 where there was a lot of possibilities for who could win second, third. This is probably the most hotly contested first place, I would say. But the story has to start with Kevin Lai, who has the Australian record, 812.5 at SPD Cup. His first ever comp as a 93 came in and broke the total record on like a week's notice. We gave him a week's notice. We had a few people pull out. I messaged him, hey, you want to come and do it? Yes, I'm in. Came in, broke the total record. Didn't break any of the individual lift records, but he's actually not too close to any of the individual lift records. He's just very, very, very well rounded. He did weigh in quite close to the cap. Like I think he weighed in at 91.9, which is like extremely close to the 93 kilo cap. So he's probably filled out the class by now with another few months. But his training's looking so strong. He's done everything close to comp maxes, super sub maximally. I do think that the rate of improvement and the newness to the 93 makes Kevin like a considerable favorite here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
But with the guys who are nipping on his heels, particularly Josh and Simon, who have had 790 plus performances with missed lifts and leaving kilos in the tank, it's definitely not Kevin's like runaway win. But if Kevin has a really good day, it makes it extremely hard for any of the others to catch him. And like I said, he's so well-rounded that he's not relying on one or two lifts to show up. He can kind of actually afford to have one of his lifts not show up and he can still put up a really big total. Even at SPD Cup, his bench performed below expectations. He benched less than he did in training. He actually missed his third attempt. His opener and his second were actually quite hard. So his bench didn't turn up like he would have expected, and he was still able to break the total record. So I think adding up all of those things, Kevin has to be the favorite, but it's definitely not a guarantee. Second in nomination, Jonathan Caruso. Actually, also a new 93. He did 2024 Nationals as an 83, broke the bench record there, went up to 93 last year. I believe he came fourth. And again, he broke the bench record there. So he's got the bench record of 193. He went to Japan. He had a pretty rough day in Japan. Like, I think he struggled in the heat and he struggled with the travel and everything like that, being, I think, his first international comp. So although he put up a total PB of 797, it wasn't actually reflective of what he was expecting. Like, I think a lot of the, the jumps that he took, if you look at the open powerlifting, he took quite little jumps between attempts, which just shows me that he thinks that there was probably more there. And the expectation was that the third attempts would fall quite a bit higher. So I wouldn't write off Jonathan as well, given how strong he felt going into that Japan comp and where things actually ended up, I wouldn't be writing him off either. Next up is Josh Takua, who best total as a 93 is 806.5, which was 2024's SPD Cup, which, if you remember back to, was actually quite a disappointing comp for Josh. He only made one squat at that comp, and I believe only made 2 bench press attempts. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and was still able to total 806.5 and come second in SPD Cup. He did have a very clutch deadlift at the end, 329, which goes to show that you can't count Josh out. If he makes his squats, it appears like he's kind of turned the corner on the depth issues that he's had in the past. He did miss his last squat at nationals on depth, and he just missed his last deadlift on grip as well. So the 795 that he did nationals was leaving quite a few kilos in the tank. I think it was a 12.5 jump and a 15 jump. Is that right? Or 12.5 and 17.5?
Which year are you talking about?
Last year's nationals. 12.5 squat jump.
It was a 19 kilo jump because last year he took a 20 kilo jump, 17. He went to 337.5 to beat Adam Jones.
Yep. Yeah. So again, like the 806
to 337.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 806.5 was not really reflective of what he thought his strength was in the prep, and the 795 he did as well was again not reflective of the strength that he thought he had in the prep. So if Josh can actually put it all together, he's certainly a chance of winning. I feel like we've said this a few times, so perhaps he's just not someone who executes, but everyone has the ability to do it once, and perhaps this is that once for Josh.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking through his score sheet over the last couple of comps, missing a couple of squats on depth, but I mean, he's a very talented lifter. His best total actually is 815 from 2022, if I'm reading this correctly, and that was only at 90 kilo class in knee sleeves. And so, he's due for a spike. He's improved, and the funny thing is, he has improved since then. Like, he's actually getting stronger. A little bit unlucky, as you've described, being forced to stretch a deadlift and missing a 20 kilo jump and missing a third squat on 2-to-1 red lights, type of thing. But if he puts it together, even if he leaves 2.5 or 5 in the tank on squats and bench, but if he goes 3 out of 3, then he'll be definitely a threat and could push Kevin at the top end. Because Josh is nominated total 795 and only 5 kilos below that. Simon Shahadi, fresh out of juniors, or maybe he still is a junior. I think he's fresh out of juniors.
This is his second year as open, yeah. So last year was his first year open.
Yeah. So still young and still improving, I suppose, is my point there. Came third at Open Nationals last year with that 790 total.
And attempted the 360 for the win.
Yes, exactly. I think I've seen the video. I wasn't there, but I've seen the video. It looked freaking awesome. Like the room was going off its rocker. Was due to compete at SPD Cup in October, had to withdraw, I think, due to injury.
Yeah, he hurt his back a couple weeks out. Yep.
Yeah, assuming that he's recovered well and he's improved since his result last year. I mean, I'm expecting him to go over 800, and so we could have a podium. We could have an 800 kilo podium, or even a full lifters over 800 kilos.
Yeah, I actually fully expect that, to be honest. Looking at Simon, the 790 he did there was a big jump for that final deadlift for the win. I think it was 360. It might have been 355. And he also missed a bench press by beating the press command. And he missed a squat on depth. So, there's a world where he gets his last squat, gets his last bench, and he is the national champion last year. That's a very, very realistic world. That's not far-fetched at all. Simon is so strong, and his deadlift is so big that it gives him such a big advantage. But I really want to see Simon be 6 for 6 at the subtotal. If Simon can be 6 for 6 at the subtotal, he can win. But if he is 4 for 6, or God forbid 3 for 6, it makes it really hard for him. He has to actually be in a position to weaponize his deadlift. If he keeps ending up a little bit too far behind, that the deadlift is a little bit of a reach, then it just becomes a little bit too far. So I would really love to see Simon come in 6 for 6, even if it's a little bit conservative. Collect the kilos and give yourself a chance. Because if you miss lifts, you very quickly fall out of contention.
Deadlift hero, I back up this advice. I second this advice. You've got to be within reach. You've got to be within striking distance. And if you drop a squat, I mean, you can't make up 12 or 15 kilos on a deadlift. Like, you just can't do that. And so you can make up 2.5 or 5, if you're 2.5 or 5 conservative on a squat or bench press, but you can't make up 12 or 15 if you miss a lift. So you can't afford to miss lifts. And it will be a really hotly contested class.
Also worth mentioning, Dean Sabawo is one of the most impressive lifters I've ever watched. I don't know if you've seen Dean. I think he's from Melbourne.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know. Have you seen him lift before?
I have, and if I'm not mistaking the person, I actually refereed him at Junior Nationals in 2017 because I recognized the score sheet. I thought it was him, and then I look at the score sheet, I'm like, I think I refereed this guy. And if it is him, hello Dean, he probably remembers me because he missed his, he got his squat opener of 240. This was, like I said, 7 years ago at this point, 8 years ago. 2017. God, that was a long time ago. And he was only 18 years old at the time. But I'll quickly tell the story. He got his squat opener, went up 2.5 because I think he didn't submit a card, and then dropped it off his shoulders. I can't remember if he dropped it at the start of the lift or as he finished the lift. Went up 5 kilos and he did it again. So he dropped 242 and 247 off his shoulder twice. And I had to come into the warm-up room and tell him off and said, I gave him a bit of grace because it was his second comp, but I said, mate, you can't be doing that because you're going to kill one of my spotters. But since then he's improved a lot, and he actually lifted at a comp that I did, the competition I did a year and a half ago where I tried to qualify for nationals, but I got injured. Anyway, I saw him there, and he's a beast. He's very athletic. He's very strong. He's just got that perfect, like, hip hinged deadlift. He's a beast. And, he could be one of those lifters that adds 30 kilos to his total. Like, he's the kind of person who I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a 30, 40 kilo total PR. That's not unusual for someone of his talent. So he's definitely within the mix for sure.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Dean is, like, if you look through his execution, he always has a few missed lifts, but he's still got really big totals. So if he's able to put it all together, his best deadlift I think is like I think he attempted 340.5 last year and missed, like, really, really close miss, like at lockout, kind of didn't get his shoulders back type of miss.
So like 340.0.
Well, the record was 340.
No, I'm saying if it was 340.0, maybe he would have gotten it. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. So, like, he's had issues with his depth in the past on squats as well. So if he can come in and execute and leave himself, like, similar to Simon, except more like, hey, give yourself a chance at podium as opposed to Simon, give yourself a chance at the win, then I think Dean could come in and pull himself onto the podium if the other two kind of forget about him and are looking forward as opposed to looking behind them. Dean's so strong and so much potential, and hopefully he can put it all together. Worth mentioning, Lennox Liu nominated 767.5, Joseph Wu 760, Ethan Lim 750, Aaron Abani 742.5, Jade Benedict took 735. I don't really see any of them sort of challenging for the podium, but like I keep saying, I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, and I hope you guys all prove me wrong and one of you gets on the podium and you can clip this and say fuck you.
Oh, they definitely will, and they definitely will.
I hope they do.
Tag Alex, tag LIFTALK.
I hope they do.
Alrighty,
moving on to the 105s. Yeah, moving on to the 105s. Now, on paper, this looks like Anthony Hill is going to run away and win because there's a 38 kilo gap between Hill at 863 and Forsberg at 825. But I think this one's actually quite similar to the Liz and Kate situation earlier, where the nominations appear to be quite distant, but the reality is a little bit closer than it is. So I'll quickly go through the rest of the field before we get into talking about Anthony and Sam. So we've got Anthony Hill, Sam Forsberg, Josh Allen, Murdad Akbari, Matt Bartholomew, Tony Newen, Callan Gibbons, Alex Foman, Tulani Gapara, and Jesse Rosenberg. Those are our 10 105 lifters. And of those 10, we kind of have, in my mind, 7 who can get on the podium, which makes it a really interesting race, particularly for that bronze medal. As I mentioned earlier, I think Anthony and Sam are kind of the runaway top 2. JP, do you want to provide a bit of insight on these two?
Anthony's from Melbourne and trains out of Melbourne Uni Powerlifting Club or Melbourne Uni Lifting Club now. I'm not sure if he still trains out of there, but very, very talented lifter. I remember when he first started competing, he was like 19 and was just a powerhouse, like right from the go. One of those lifters who you look at and say, you've got so much potential if you're directed in the right way. And I think it's fair to say that's been the case. He's gone to Worlds. He's gone to Junior Worlds most recently in Costa Rica last year, and lifted extraordinarily there. He's won an Open Nationals, he competed in Open Nationals and has come third. He's won a Junior Nationals, obviously, which is what got him to the World. So he's actually got quite a bit of experience for someone who's so young at relatively high-level meets. Like I said, extraordinarily talented, trains very, very hard, of course.
And he is still a junior.
He would still be a junior. Yes, exactly right. He's still a junior. So he's still improving, I think, is the important part. Like at that age, you're still adding kilos to your lifts. Like you're not stagnating like you are when you're 33, but is still improving. His best total is 863 and his most recent total is 847.5. So it's like his total's gone down, but as I've said, and as we've said before, that doesn't mean he hasn't gotten stronger. Like he's getting stronger, just hasn't reflected on that in his most recent comp, because in the most recent comp he missed the squat and missed the deadlift. And so assuming he puts together a good day, he could, I haven't seen much of his training recently, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does 880 or 890 or something, just because, like I said, the trajectory is upwards.
Yeah, and the thing that worries me about Anthony is that like he's a big 105. He's very tall. He's big. Like he's filled out the class almost already. Last year he had a pretty difficult cut to make it for Open Nationals. I did their weigh-ins and he was like, can I hurry up and weigh in? He was asking me like every few minutes, like, can I hurry up and weigh in? We're like, yeah, we're getting through it. And he was so glad that he'd made it, and he looked very depleted and dehydrated. He ended up lifting really, really well, so it didn't affect him. But, another year of lifting, he's probably put on more muscle, especially at his age. It's probably going to, at some point, get harder for him to make 105, and I think we'll probably see him go into the 120 as he becomes an open, like as he's out of the 105s. So I hope that his cut isn't too difficult for this comp and that he's able to perform regardless. We look at his 863 that he did. He only deadlifted 330, and it was actually very easy. On his opener, he came out without deadlift socks on and got told to piss off. So he skipped his opener, essentially, came back and did his opener on his second, and then essentially did his second on his third. So essentially left a deadlift in the tank on the day that he did 863. And then on the day that he did 847.5, he missed his final deadlift on downward movement. Like it was extremely close at Worlds. I think he got 2 blue cards or 3 blue cards. And I believe he was pulling for the podium at Worlds with that deadlift. So, there's been improvements. The 863 is not even a reflection of his top end. And if he's able to actually bring it out, no one will touch him. If he is a little bit behind his game, or his weight cut affects him a little bit, or he misses a couple of lifts, Sam Forsberg could definitely come in and beat him. Again, tall, like very tall order. But looking at Sam's last 3 totals, 822.5, which was him winning the 2024 national championships. He pulled 345, which was like I think a 22.5 kilo jump. He pulled from 5th into 1st, like best pull of the weekend, epic deadlift. And he, earned his spot at Worlds, did 820. Last year's nationals did 825, whilst missing a bench and missing his first and third deadlifts. So not his best day there, and definitely shows that there's improvements that have been made. I've seen him deadlift a 345 double in training, or maybe it was a 340 double, one of those two in training. He has bench 200, not quite to comp spec, but I expect him to do at least 190, 192. And he's deadlifted well over his, squatted well over his best of 307.5, in training. So Sam is one where we could see what looks like a really big improvement on the total, but more so just a reflection of how much stronger he's gotten in the time since he's been able to put up a total like that. So definitely not writing Sam off. I do expect that if Hill shows up well, he'll be very hard for Sam to get. And I think that Sam will likely be able to put himself into clear second with his second deadlift and go for the win anyway, regardless. But it might be too much of an ask if Hill has a good day.
Yeah, as we said before, like Sam Forsberg's most recent totals are 822.5, 820, 825. He's been stable at those numbers for a while now, and as you said, he's improved and ready to kind of push beyond the limit that he's previously been at. And the interesting battle from here now is who's taken home the bronze medal. We've got 5 lifters within 17.5 kilos. And we've said that a number of times, 5 kilos within 17.5, but those were, women totaling 450, 500. Now you got men totaling 800 kilos. So 17.5 kilos is not a lot. It is really not a lot. It's 1 squat or 1 deadlift or 1.5 bench presses. So it's going to be a really tight battle on who takes home the bronze medal. Some very experienced names among the mix. The top nomination amongst the group, Josh Allen with 800 kilos. That's a total, and he's only young, still improving, as we've said before. I think he's only 22 years old. Following close behind him is 792.5 by Murdad and Matt B, who you know very well, obviously. And then only 2.5 below that's Tony Nguyen. So it's going to be very, very close on who gets this bronze medal. And rounding out the group that we really see as fighting for the bronze is Callan Gibbons, who, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't been at 105 for that long. And so
yeah, this will be his like first proper comp actually training at 105. He's not even close. He's not even close to 105, but yeah, he is, it appears like he's a little bit behind, Josh in particular. 17.5 seems like a lot, but his training is looking really, really good.
That 782.5 was at 93. So he's
yes,
like
that's right. Up. Yeah, that's right. So he did 782 at 93, like over 18 months ago or something like that. And he's, had obviously 18 months of training plus eating and not having to cut. And I think something that seems to have affected Callan a lot has been the cut and the process of trying to rehydrate and get back up to training weight while he was competing as a 93. Obviously won't have that issue here. So particularly on his subtotal, I can see a big improvement coming. Tony Nguyen obviously can't be written off, has the biggest deadlift out of this group, sort of fighting for the bronze. So he'll have the chance to pull what he can at the end. And then, Maddie, Murdad, and Josh, they're all subtotal specialists with relatively lower pulls compared to Callan and Tony. So they're going to have to be 6 for 6 and essentially they're going to have to be 9 for 9 and just like pray that they've done enough to fight the other guys off. So it really will be an interesting battle because we've got lifters with such different strengths and, lifters at different experience levels, lifters at different stages of their career. So it's going to be interesting to see like the kind of the decisions that they make. As you've mentioned, 17.5 spread is 1 squat. And I know particularly for Matt and particularly for Josh, like these are lifters who take big jumps. Like if you look at Matt's open powerlifting, his last two comps, he's gone 8 for 9 and he's missed a bench press attempt. He took 15 kilo jump in one of those and a 12.5 kilo jump in the other one. And that's for bench press. Like not to mention his squat and his deadlift. So, the importance of making lifts for these lifters in this next group is, it's paramount.
The records in the 105 kilo class aren't really under threat except for Anthony Hill himself, as he holds the squat and deadlift records. And so, as we said earlier, if he's improved, he should be looking to kind of knock those off. The bench record at 217.5 is probably a little bit out of reach for most of these guys, except maybe a Josh Allen if he has a good day. Josh's best bench press on record is 207.5 in competition, and the record's 217.5.
Well, Hill has done 210 too.
Oh, sorry, and Hill's done 210. The deadlift probably relatively safe, although you did mention that Sam's done a 340 double. And so the record of 357.5, again, could be under threat. So nothing crazy. Nobody's going to blow any of these records out of the water. It'll be a case of if it's there, and it might be chipped. But I don't see any of these records getting blown apart.
Yeah, I don't see there being like a battle for any of the records. Like I think Hill's the only one who could take the squat. Maybe Hill or Allen for bench, but that's a bit of a stretch. 10 and 7.5 kilos away from their best is a bit of a stretch. I do think Sam will be within range of that deadlift record. I know if you look up his open powerlifting, he attempted something in the 360s last year for the win, which obviously didn't end up coming off. So he'll definitely be confident that he can at very least chip that 357.5. And yeah, makes for some exciting lifting.
All right, the 120 kilo category belongs to Josh Lanivia, who is the Australian record holder, and the top nomination at 896.5, but is followed quite closely by Cody Wilkes, Charles Kafusi, Michael Rand, and Daniel Felstein. So only 5 lifters in this group. As I mentioned, Josh Linivia, 896.5. He did that at the SPD Cup with, I think, a perfect day. Half a kilo PB on the squat, half a kilo PB on the bench press, deadlifted 345, which was like his limit, I suppose. So that 896.5, we've spoken a couple of times today about people not really representing their true strength, missing a couple of unfortunate lifts. I think that's the opposite with Josh in this case. That 896.5 was his basically limit on the day.
I think that's representative of Josh for most of his career, really, is that he has just such a high level of execution. He comes in, he makes lifts, he knows what his top end is, he's confident that he can hit whatever you put on the bar, and he does so. So I think, although Cody is nominated at 35 kilos behind at 860.5, Cody was so close to beating Josh last year. He pulled for the win and he dropped it at the top. Like, it was just a grip slip at the top. Mm-hmm. And I trust Josh's ability to make lifts. I don't have that same level of trust in Cody, but Cody is definitely strong enough. He just has to have a really good day. If Cody has a really good day, he could definitely walk away as national champion. They could both be over 900 and Cody could pull for the win.
Wow.
I think Josh has the history of execution in his favor, and he has sort of the balanced total in his favor as well, where he's not relying on one lift in particular. Cody, huge squat, huge deadlift, a little bit behind Josh on the bench press. So if Josh has a really great 9 for 9 day, it's going to take a lot from Cody, but I still don't think that would make it out of the question.
Question for you, Alex. How much of a factor do you think it is that Cody has never competed outside of WA? He isn't super experienced, has never traveled to the East Coast for lifting. Is that something that matters, or you feel like that kind of just gets lost in the wash and, once the bar hits the ground, you're just there to lift?
I think it will depend on factors like whether he has to cut weight, which I don't think he does. Can you double check his open powerlifting and see what he's weighed in at? His
last few comps has been 115, 111, 112. Yeah. So
that definitely plays into his favor, not having to cut, not having to worry about like potential weight retention on the flight and stuff like that. And also, like, it's only a 5-hour flight from Perth. He's not going overseas. So 12, it's not like it takes a whole day of eating out of question and he has to do all these other particular things with his time zones and stuff like that. I don't expect it to have...
It's a 3-hour time difference, which is not little.
It's not nothing, but they lift on Sunday. I expect that he'll probably arrive Friday and give himself a little bit of time to adjust. And I don't expect there to be any issues. I really think that this battle is a lot closer than what it appears like on paper. And Josh is really experienced at this point. Cody's still not that experienced. He hasn't done that many powerlifting comps. He does weightlifting as well. That's like his other thing. So he's got other outlets. He's not like fully all into powerlifting.
That's cool.
But man, he's strong. He's so strong. And I remember when they loaded up that pull for the win, in my head, I was like, no way. And then it was actually so close. I was like blown away how close it was. He literally just dropped it at the top. So hopefully he can rectify, whatever grip issues he's had there. And wait till you see this guy squat, man. He's so explosive. It is like,
yeah, cool.
Weightlifter bounce, so fucking strong.
Keen for it. And the fight for bronze, 2 very familiar names, Charles Kafusi and Michael Rand.
Yeah, so Charles is nominated above Michael here because Rand did his last comp at SPD Cup and actually hurt his hip on his third squat and kind of limped his way through the finish. So that 815 is definitely not reflective of where he was or where he is, like in terms of his strength level. I fully expect Michael to actually challenge Cody if Cody misses a couple of lifts for a second place. And I don't expect Charles will actually be in the fight for the bronze, even though he's nominated higher. Unless Michael, again, has a very bad day and we can kind of just pick him off at the end. But Michael has a bigger deadlift and he'll essentially get to decide at the end. So I don't know how much of a chance Charles has for a medal. It kind of depends on the others falling apart.
I'm sure he'll love to hear that.
There's no way he'll listen to this.
And to round out the 120s, Daniel Felston, his nomination is 777.5, so a little bit behind, but will be good to give the rest of the boys a minute extra rest. That's a little harsh.
He's a great guy. He's out of ex-gym Castle Hill. Recently gone up to 120 about a year ago and making good progress. Like, I hope we can see him crack 800 for the first time. Like, obviously getting those milestone totals is a big deal for people. So hopefully Dan can get the 800. He's a good guy. Real chill. Comes out, looks like Tarzan, lifts big weights. Sick. Good guy.
And the big boys, the 120 kilo plus category, 4 lifters nominated: Tony Reinmuth, Jackson Stubblefield, Ranji Ferguson, and Caleb V. Ruguri.
Yep. So this one is really cool. Similarly to the 47s, the last few years, the 120 plus has been one person. The last 2 years has just been Jackson lifting on his own. And now we got some competition. And not just we have some competition, like we really got some competition. Tony Reinmuth coming back from, a stint of doing pro raw and squatting in wraps and all that. He's come back to the IPF and he's done 2 comps in the APA. He did 922.5 and he did 926. Which that 926 is the total record. 406 is the squat record. That's his. And I think it's pretty hard to look at this and say that Tony isn't the favorite. But, as we spoke about in the SBD preview show, with bigger lifters, with Tony as well, not just big lifters, but also Tony in particular, there's some comps there that are quite lean in terms of made lifts. Like there's some 4s, there's some bombs, there's some 5 out of 9s, there's some 4 out of 9s. Obviously, we don't hope that happens, but it's always a possibility that Tony misses a squat, misses a deadlift, and he leaves the door open for one of these other boys to come in and beat him. Of those top 3 nominated, Tony is the weakest deadlifter, which does obviously open the door up for the others to, pull to beat him at the end. So as much as I do expect Tony to win, it's not a foregone conclusion. Jackson and Rangi are going to give him a run, and I expect it to be really close. What will separate Tony is how much he can squat. And, what we've seen in this prep from him has been outstanding. He did a 407 last week that was like a warm-up, which is above his own record. And then he did 420 this week, which was just incredible, like good bar speed on it. Looked like he had 10 to 15 kilos in him. And if Tony can make 3 squats and he can squat sort of around 425, it becomes very hard for the others. But if Tony misses and he's kept the door open, then, we can start to see some outcomes towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, Tony's resume is extensive. He did his first comp in 2013, so very experienced. And weirdly, I feel like he's improving faster now than I've seen in a very long time. The big asterisk on Tony over the last few years has just been his shoulder. I mean, he benched 248 in 2019, and not long after that, 242 in the 3 lift meet. But since then, just hasn't been even close, has been under 230 since then. And most recently at the SPD Cup, he failed at 210. I think he failed at 210 for beating a press call or beating a rack call or something. But that was his third attempt. And so, I mean, a fully healthy Tony with a 430 squat and a 250 bench is just like podium level at Worlds, if he got to Worlds and had a good day. But when you're dropping 40 kilos on your bench press or 30 kilos on your best bench press, then like you said, the doors could be open. Again, he needs to get all of his squats to be in the mix, and he's got the weakest deadlift by a mile. So I personally think that Tony is a much clearer favorite than it sounds like what you're saying. But of course, there's always a chance. And it looks like that 3 that we've mentioned, Tony, Jackson, and Rangi, are going to be our clear podium, I suppose.
Yeah, so we can go on to Jackson now. Jackson best total 910, which got him to Worlds. Last year, he had a good performance at Worlds. And he's just kind of been hanging in the shadows and training since then. So it's been, a good 7-month prep. Prior to that Nationals, he had knee surgery, and, it was actually quite a short prep into Nationals to get him to that 910, where he was able to not quite reach his best ever squat and not quite reach his best ever deadlift, but still reach a total PB, like a big total PB. In that 910 was a big total PB. So I feel like we've got, another 7 or 8 months of training under Jackson's belt since surgery to get that squat better than it's ever been, to get that deadlift better than it's ever been, and to just continue hammering away at his bench press, which was the thing that like really took off and enabled a lot of that progress in the total. I would not be surprised if Jackson does like 930, 940, 950 even, with some of those improvements that we're expecting. And if he can sort of like put it all together on the same day, he does have a very good execution rate for a super heavyweight. Like most super heavyweights are lower execution, lower made lifts than what Jackson is. He is consistent across the board. He makes lifts. He's now been healthy for a while, and I think he's a real shot.
Great summary there from Jackson. I think I might have been underestimating how much he's improved, I suppose. And so it's good to hear that he will really be pushing Tony, because the last few times I've seen Tony compete have been fairly straightforward affairs. And so to see him under a bit of duress will be great. And Rangi continues to improve. He's, I think, first year out of juniors and has only done three comps, I think, and has seen big improvements every time, as you'd expect from a young lifter. So if he keeps up the momentum, like he could be in the low 900s and posing a bit of a problem for the other two. Yeah,
I mean, wait till you see Rang in person. He's not built like most super heavyweights where they're carrying a lot of extra body fat. He is a brick shit house, man. He's so wide and thick, and he's only 24. First comp 785, second comp 863, which got him the
That's insane just to see a 60, 80 kilo improvement like that.
Yeah, got him to junior worlds, and he came third at junior worlds. Like he did 892 and a half, and he came third. And on that day, he missed his squat opener at 320 on depth. They went up 340, absolutely smoked it. Looked like the easiest lift in the world. And then they went up to 370. So they took a 30 kilo jump, and he actually stood up with it, but missed on some downward movement. Like it was a bit of a bobble towards the middle of the rep. So if you give him credit for that 370, he is like right there with Tony.
Yeah, true. Actually, he's at 927. Oh,
922 and a half. Yeah. So if you give him credit for that missed squat, obviously he missed it, so you can't really give him credit for it. But he's hit that weight in training. He doesn't have to cut weight because he's a super heavyweight. Yeah. So yeah, Rangi, big deadlift as well. He's just so young that you just don't know what he's going to be capable of, and I can't wait to see it. And I can't wait to see him fulfill his potential, because like he is just truly a specimen. Like truly a specimen.
Looking forward to the 120 kilo plus category. Like I said a couple of times, good to see a little bit of competition at these, end weight classes. That wraps up our men's summary. Alex, who do you foresee as being the biggest threats for best male lifter?
Well, I think it's only really down to Kian and Kana. I don't see anyone else challenging Kian and Kana. Obviously, Kana will lift after Kian. We mentioned before, Kana not going to go to Worlds, so isn't worried about A group. Doesn't want to extend the total record too far for SPD Cup. Kian wants to get to A group at Worlds. I think Kian will probably push himself a little bit harder, so my pick is going to be Kian. Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. I think generally, a little trick for the listeners at home is to equalize a weight class, you just go 10% on the total. And so if Kana's not going to jump 800, if he's not going to go beyond 800, then as long as Kian's within 750 plus, then he'll be the better lifter on the day. And we've got some talented lifters, like we've spoken about Anthony Hill and Kevin Lai and Tony Ryan, obviously Josh and Lindenvia, but I don't think any of these guys are going to be threatening a Kian who puts together a 770 day if he can put that together. So I was going to say the same thing, more or less, that Kian's are my pick for the best male lifter.
Awesome. Well, do we have anything else to discuss?
Not particularly. I think it's going to be a great comp. Good to see APA running a nationals in Melbourne. A little bit biased from my end. There'll be a live stream, obviously, on Australian Powerlifting Alliance YouTube account. keep up to date on the Australian Powerlifting Alliance Instagram for updates. Make sure you follow Alex and JP for updates as how we go. But otherwise, it's been a great summary. A lot of lifters, a lot of names. But it's good to see that there's competition in every category, basically. If it's not at least for first, at least on the podium. And only time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. So thanks everyone for listening. We will see how everything goes. We'll do a recap show. You want to do a recap show?
Yeah, I'm in for a recap show. Maybe one that's not for 2 hours, though.
Yeah, usually the recap's a little bit quicker because you don't have to talk about all the potential scenarios. You just talk about what actually happened. So it should be a bit faster than this.
Can we just do a recap show of my day? Can we just talk about me for an hour and a half?
I hope we don't talk about you at all.
I think if we talk about me for the whole time, then we'll have no listeners. So I think we should talk about someone else.
JP, you have your own podcast. You can do that on your podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can do it there. All right, Alex, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been a great time.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.